It's all good.
I guess we're live, eh?
Things are on, yeah. I was gonna do it on here real quick to see.
Beautiful evening though, hey? Like
It's-
what was the temperature when you drove up here this evening?
It was 0.
0?
It was
plus 5 when I got home at 6 o'clock.
It was going the other way.
Yeah.
It was in a hurry, but it was warm today.
It's not windy, that's a first here.
Yeah, that is a first. We've had some horrendous winds. This is too much. Let me see.
Oh, you
We've
gotta
had some horrendous.
turn your volume all the way down and
Get that off. Got it. This might work.
then you think you see the comments pop up as they come?
Probably.
We should do a quick test here. How do I just say good? See my one finger chicken patch typing because the computer's so far away.
You know what I noticed? Like, once that hour, I thought it was getting late, right? But once that hour rolls by, it's like, bam, there's like 10 or 15 people jump on, like around 9 o'clock.
Yeah, around 9 o'clock. I think everybody gets their kids to bed, and then I don't know what happens there, but
That very
it's
well
like,
could
it's
be.
like it's like the witching hour. Everybody just kind of crawls in. They got their cup of tea. Hey, what's
See.
on?
See what these guys are doing here.
Let's see what these reckless fools are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, lighting, lighting's definitely better
Lighting's
on
good.
mine than it was the other night.
Yeah. So for you got anybody on? You got one person on yours already. Had one come in and out real quick. Yeah,
Started.
definitely a big lighting change by comparison to last time.
Yeah, I think. Well, definitely on this side of the thing.
Who's that? That
Chad.
Hey,
Chad's
Chad.
on here.
So yeah, the last time, if you remember from Robin's video, it was super dark on his side and super bright over here. And we were just talking about that before we went live as to why that was. So, because I don't have any kind of fancy lighting in the shop here, I basically just took a heat lamp and shone it at the shop wall thinking it would reflect back and create enough light. I was a little imbalanced. Not unlike myself.
But it was good. It was
Yeah.
good nevertheless.
Yeah. Well, while we wait for folks to shuffle in here, should we pour one or what?
Yeah, we may as well. We may as well get these unwrapped too. These, I brought these cigars, so unfortunately Stan didn't have any time to research them, but we do know they come from Mexico, and that's all we know.
And what are these? These are Casa Turrent?
Casa Torrent, yeah.
Casa Turrent? Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
They're a Mexican.
It could be how
They're
you say it.
Mexican, Mexico's finest. That's kind of cool. Huh? Like it's kind of like a square, or almost like a rectangular cigar. That's pretty cool looking.
Do you think that was designed, or do you think it was squished in a box?
No, but you always see like like when you go to the cigar shop, you see the real expensive ones and they're square like that. You got to think like that's pretty hard to do. I would think to roll a square.
Yeah, well, we'd say maybe it's real cheap and it was
So,
just shoved
maybe-
shoved in a,
Maybe,
in a,
but
in a
we're
brick.
gonna say that these are like $80 cigars. We'll just go with that.
We'll call them that. Yeah, absolutely.
You betcha. What, are you thirsty or what?
Yeah, we'll pour one, and then if anybody's jumped on here, if you throw a comment up, because we're trying a different thing. Stan's got yet a different computer. I'm back to my phone. I got the iPad here to try to
keep people guessing,
your
right?
comments. So we don't know if they work. I did see one from Chad. Oh, you got one. Yeah, something popped up on Stan's right away.
Good evening, good evening.
couple there.
Hey guys, the stream seems to be buffering lots tonight. Not sure if it's on my end or yours. I hope it's not my end, but it could be. It very well
Well,
could be.
yeah, it might be because you're getting more comments in your. Even the numbers aren't going up quick enough. Maybe I should shut this off.
I think I think we're using bandwidth or what?
We'll see. Is it? Well, it's really delayed on mine.
Yeah.
Like from the phone to the iPad. I can shut that
There's
off,
usually
too.
a 60-second delay there. That's a thing, but.
Is anybody else having real buffering issues? Well, you go with that. So we're gonna do this several times again throughout the night. We got new cups up. Jeremy from, actually, I'm not sure if Jeremy's from Spirit River, I think. He won the last ones. I haven't shipped them to you yet, Jeremy. I will. And so we're gonna give another set away. Bloom Farm, Kirkfell Farm. All you got to do to be entered in is participate, comment. The last draw we only had 14 entries. Jeremy, if you're in here, unfortunately, even if you do comment, your name's not going back in the bucket. So you got like, you'll probably have a 1 in 20 chance probably of winning cups, so
We'll
at
find
least.
another bucket for your name to go in someday.
Exactly, we'll figure something else out, because we,
So what are we drinking here? This is, Pendleton, 1910 rye. Gentleman that I work with, also named Jim, funnily enough, was kind enough to, donate this bottle for tonight's live stream. I've never had Pendleton, especially not the 1910. Absolutely gorgeous bottle, very ornate. I mean, the glasswork alone makes that like
I know.
an $80 bottle of whiskey, but I think these are like $45 a bottle. And Pendleton rye it's 100% rye. Like it's not like, I think in order to be classified as rye, you have to be at least 51% rye, but this is 100% rye, so
Interesting.
I'm expecting this to be, spicy.
Spicy, not leathery and woody like these
No,
cigars.
Yeah, maybe they're gonna balance each other out, but not like spicy like curried goat spicy, but like spicy like,
Well, nothing says sophistication like leathery, woody.
yeah, like how
Spice.
what does that tell you?
Oh yeah,
Does that like remind you like grandma's kitchen, like
I was gonna say like
cloves and
nail polish remover.
cinnamon, acetone?
Pure. I'm gonna be honest with you, Stan. This smells like pure gasoline.
60% of the time, it burns every time. Can I interest you in an ice cube?
I will take an ice cube now.
There
We
you
got.
go.
Oh, yeah, we got a. These aren't. Oh, you switched it up. You're not doing custom eggs no more.
Well, no, the last time I did it in a bottle, freeze it in the bottle, and then it makes one that fits almost
Classy,
super classy. Fits almost the entire glass, and just
decent,
extra cooling, but it doesn't melt as quickly.
excellent.
It went.
Oh yeah, that's well. Let's do it.
We're gonna go.
We don't know if we're gonna hit 2 hours
How
again.
many
I expect
fingers
we
are we-
probably will.
It's got to be like
3-finger, 4.
3 or 4 fingers.
Depends on.
Keep it respectable.
You got frying pan hands too. So.
I got big hand mitts. Yeah.
James Hoffer, streaming fine, but your voices are dragging sometimes, that's all. Well, I will, once we get going here, if I can catch up with them on my phone, I'll just shut this off and we'll give that a try for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well,
Cheers.
cheers.
It's like sweet, hey?
I'm gonna be honest, I took a drink, like a sip instead of a sip.
You're just
So
like, bam, let's get to it.
I got it, well, I got excited, a little bit excited.
Run a little premature here.
It's mighty fine though.
That is good. I gotta let that ice cube work to cool it down a little bit, because there's a lot of flavor in that whiskey. That's not all fire. There's more flavor,
No.
more flavor than fire. That's kind of interesting. Not what you'd expect out of a rye.
No. No, yeah, that's not the same.
No, that's good.
Curious too, everybody. That's you guys that are watching. Do you join us for a drink and a smoke as well, or do you just? I was curious about that.
Yeah, I had one guy at work today. He said, "So you guys just like sit and drink whiskey and have a cigar?" And yeah, solve the world's problems at the same time, right? Why not?
Exactly.
So it's pretty much it's right up there with the coolest thing I could think of to do.
I know. Well, that's it. When we
Too cold to go ride dirt bikes. So.
we're coming up with a plan on how are we gonna get out of the house. We just like, what's the coolest thing we can do?
Yeah.
And it's like sit in front of leather-bound books, smoke a cigar, and who knows? Maybe next year we'll have like a whole thing.
I'm gonna have to like church it up a little.
Well,
bit.
you never know where we're gonna take it, right?
Stain the wood or something. This.
From downstairs with the tractor, the AGCO behind
The
us, to
greasy old
upstairs with just tons of class.
Yeah. There you go.
Something else.
Well, I'm eyeballing this cigar, and I'm thinking a guy should.
Yeah, we'll do it because I don't know, your buddy, cigar guy, he never told us how long
This
was gonna
does
be
smell
because
very woody, hey?
That's what the internet said.
Yeah, definitely leather and wood. I can get there.
Also, too, before we get into this, I had a couple people ask. One guy that was picking up feed asked, how do Stan and I know each other? We are not related. We're not cousins. not brothers, we just,
Brothers from another mother.
what, 3 years ago? Stopped by to get some chicken feed, maybe 4 years ago.
That would have been the first time the chicken feed happened. I'm pretty sure you and I had a whiskey together like a decade ago or better.
It's possible,
Yeah, yeah.
it's possible.
Maybe one or two.
So, and then, yeah, we just, being the only two people that we know in, well, at least, he's like the only one that I know that actually worked on a drilling rig, so we've someone to talk to about that, right?
The only two respectable rig hands in
But-
North
well,
America.
It's, believe it or not, living up here in northern Alberta, especially Grand Prairie, the Peace Country, you think everybody was a rig hand, and that's kind of what I thought too. Till I went and worked on one, and no, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah, they're
So-
from all over the map. Yeah, that's right.
I'm a mixed kind of guy, big local spiced rum kind of guy, not big on the big brands. Oh boy. Did you do that right?
I just gotta get the,
Is it any good?
I gotta get the center lit here.
Well, you said not to get the fire on it.
Yeah, no, you gotta toast it.
Toast it, I remember that.
Toast it, get the outside going, blowing a little bit, and then we'll light the filler.
I don't want to waste none of that. Carbon tax and whatnot.
Carbon tax on butane. I got more. I had to stock up after Russia went to war there.
Yeah, I guess you can't buy a vodka in the store.
that right?
Yeah, they pulled her off the shelf today. I read the article. Any Russian vodka, come right off the shelf in Canada.
Oh, because of the sanctions.
I guess so.
Here, I need to boil.
That's a bit.
Guess we'll all have Ukrainian vodka.
Yeah. We might have to dedicate one evening just to getting into that kind of stuff, eh? For tonight, we'll just stick to time management on the farm.
What do we got here?
You always cut yours so clean, and I always get shit in my mouth.
I got some Grey Goose, but this is from France. I have to throw that toilet water away and get some real vodka.
Damon, I used to run tools for Select Energy Systems at Grand Prairie. Milking, fishing, mostly pulling and hanging coil strings around Fort St. John. That's up your alley.
Oh yeah, I've probably spent some time with Damon on the rig floor back a different lifetime.
Fort St. John, Fort Nelson, this oil patch days. Yeah, no, that's one thing that, you know, even after the live stream here, Stan and I usually sit down, have another drink, and then
Tell war
just get
stories.
into that because, like you say, I didn't have anybody I went to high school with didn't. They all went to the patch, but nobody went actually to a drilling rig. So, yeah.
Aurora Station, have no feed at all now. Chat back here if you can. So we'll just have to say test. 1, 2, 3.
Well, this is pretty good.
See, I'm hoping that's not on this end. So, not that I want anybody else to have internet connectivity issues, but
Did you notice if these were actually popping up on my phone like they did on yours the other night?
yeah, no, you can see it come up in the bottom corner. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, you know what? I think I am gonna blend a little bit. I gotta add a little touch of ginger ale to this rye because I can feel already the heat coming up in my chest, and I had buffalo chicken for supper. And
Oh boy. Need to mix
Really?
it with some Pepto.
particularly really want to get heartburn. And
I see your chat, no video yet. That's a big one. Like it's black? Is that what he's saying? The
What
screen is black?
well, I don't think they have audio
got
or
one
nothing.
here.
So maybe if somebody's on Robbins, they could switch over to ours, switch over to Kirkfell Farm real quick and just see if you're actually seeing anything.
Yeah, Chad, for sure. Yeah. Anybody, yeah. Jump over onto Kirkfell's and see if you can.
Because it would take me all of about 10 seconds to just shut that down and hop onto my phone if needs be, and before we get knee deep into time management here.
I'm thinking I should just shut my phone off and just go off of this. Do you think is that how that would work?
I'm not
Or
sure.
do you think it would turn into the phone? So yeah, Stan and I don't know what we're doing.
We thought we would have had
still
this
don't
solved by now, but
It's only 4. Did more wellhead work. Oh,
Stan's isn't running too good. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna shut mine down. off the laptop, because that laptop is, well, it's the same technology that's helping Russia invade Ukraine right now. We're gonna shut that one down, and I'll dial in on my phone here real quick. We'll be right back. And dismiss.
I wonder why certain things work and certain things don't.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's kind of frustrating, hey, but.
So, but yeah, we're gonna get, Stan's just gonna grab his phone, get it set up a little different. I thought there was a way I could even bring it up on both, maybe. Maybe I can't, I'm not sure. I don't know, add maybe. Well, now I got rid of it over here too. Handy dandy. These might not be 2-hour cigars.
I don't think they are. I think
So-
they're a little dry, actually, to be honest.
They, well, we'll be half an hour into her before we even get started.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anybody, anybody, what's there on there? 6. If you're new, we are doing the cup thing again. Comment. Stan's just gonna get his going on. Once we get Stan's up and running, if somebody wants to hop over to Kirkfell Farm, I'll let you know, and we'll see if it's working better on his phone. Other than that, yeah, Chad, if you're in here yet, or if you're waiting for Stan, the wind is getting out of control. Although it wasn't too windy here.
Oh, we're all kitty wampus here. Hang on. There we go. I think we're here. Just gonna shove that back a little bit there.
Oh, you got one right there, Stan.
Hey, bud, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Wow, aren't we all?
This is right. Let's just shut this off here for a minute.
Okay.
What do we do?
Is it just me or is it hot in here? It
I
is.
already took my coat off.
You did it here.
Yeah, I got the. Okay, let's just do this here. Get rid of this.
I promise we're not
Someday,
not trying to waste anybody's time here.
once we start making the.
A little less. Yeah, once we're on that. I mean, you got the ring light now. That's
We do.
that upped the game tenfold. I don't know where we go from there. Like, we gotta get like one of those big microphones and Joe Rogan headsets.
Seems to be better, less
That seems
buffering.
best. Okay, perfect.
Okay,
So-
well, we're gonna leave it
so
at that
happy to
then.
hear
We'll,
that.
we'll leave this off, because I'm sure this must have been part of the issue.
When we go in afterwards into YouTube Studio, we should probably cut the first, how many minutes, for 15 minutes of the stream off?
Have a disclaimer. All right, well, I guess that's enough. We'll get right into it then. You
We're
wanted
here.
to start?
Yeah, so for the folks at home, I'm not sure who is and who is not familiar with the gentleman by the name of William Penn. You know who he is?
No.
He's a famous English writer, religious visionary, and he's a legend in the United States. He's the founder of the province of Pennsylvania, and he founded the city of Philadelphia. He wrote something that really struck a chord with me here in the last week or two as we've been kind of doing some research on the subject. He said, "Time is what we want most, but what we use the worst." That's
Yeah.
that's a timeless statement if ever there is one, right? So time for many of us is a great equalizer, right? We get the same 24 hours in every day. And if we're able to make productive use of that day, well then that's great, but there's a lot of whirlwind things that come into our day to day that can really eat our lunch. Things we don't account for necessarily, right? And how we use the day, how we use the 24 hours can mean the difference between getting it done or not getting it done, or getting overwhelmed even, right?
Yeah.
So, over the last, what has it been, the last week? I think it's been the last week, because we weren't really sure what day we were gonna do this. So it was the last week we kind of settled on the date, and then we put some community questions out there on YouTube and said, okay, well, what's your perspective on this? And one of the questions was, what would you rather have on your farm? And one of them was more help around the farm, more hours in a day. What was the other one?
Well, you had 3, so there was
4 things. Anyways, one of the other ones was less things to do, and it just shocked me that, you know, we'd ask for more help. Oh, it was better, yeah, an increased ability to multitask. That's what it was. So we have a desire to be able to do more things or to have more help, but we don't really ask for less things to do. So that to me, it just kind of struck a chord, right? So when we ended the last video, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
yeah.
We kind of ended off on a little bit of conversation around mental health and how is that relevant to the farm and how is that relevant to time management? Well, you think about the big picture. I know for myself, when we got into this, it was a huge source of therapy, right? Farming or living through agriculture was a coping mechanism in many cases, dealing with the loss of my dad and stuff like that. And so then you find that, okay, well, that coping mechanism now becomes a burden. What do you do at that point, right? It's no longer a coping mechanism, it now becomes a source of stress. So I just wanted to touch on, if that is you, or you notice that's becoming you, don't think you're alone in this, because here's the stats. I'm a numbers guy, I live for stats, right? 35% of farmers meet the classification for clinical depression. 45% of farmers report high stress. 58% of farmers meet the classification for anxiety. 68% of farmers are more susceptible to chronic stress than the general population, which chronic stress is a key factor in physical and mental illness. So, a resource that I found is the Do More Agriculture Foundation. They are agriculture-based mental health website you can go to. A lot of resources that are there that are applicable to what we do, so that you're not just talking to somebody that has no idea, no bearing on perspective or context to what we're talking about. So you can go to there, www.domore.ag. Back to time management.
Well, yeah, that's helpful stuff for sure. So now, as always, when we put these topics out, and then when Stan does his community page looking he puts out questions that then we end up doing quite a bit of research for a couple weeks, so we have something to fill 2 hours with. Then we write it all down. One thing when I started looking into this, I got right into like, how much can your brain take? So when you're really doing anything, so farming specific, humans can only do one task that requires decision making at a time. Now, low-level functions like breathing and chewing gum and other things like that, they're not considered tasks when you're talking about the multitasking debate. So the human mind can also only concentrate on 3 or 4 things held in their subconscious at one time. And I bring this up, so these exaggerated claims of, I got a million things to do, I got a million things on the go, I'm doing 10 things at once. We all say that, and it's all possible that you have all this stuff. This is all a mental fog that you're in.
Yeah.
So if you've got 10 things that you're doing at once, you are doing 9 things wrong.
This is true.
If you have 1,000,001 things on the go, you're doing 1,000,000 things wrong. This 100%. Is just reality. This is the mental fog that we get ourselves in. We're doing too much, and we can't. It's not you're not inadequate. It's just the way the human body works.
It's just that by design,
right?
It's the way we are. Yeah.
There's another one that we got in here that's going to tie into this. I had this under a thing of mental mental fog, but this gets into time management, task management. This is really crucial because if you start to throw everything in your basket at once, it's not going to work. Like, this isn't to take away from the fact farms aren't busy. It brings awareness to the limitations of your body and your mind. So you have to, time management is so crucial. If you're not managing tasks and times properly, it's going to be a bad day.
100%, yeah. And yeah, if you think you're good at multitasking, I know there's a lot of, are men good at it or women good at it? It doesn't matter, man or woman, or if, you know, you're super organized, you're not super organized. If you think you're good at multitasking, you're unequivocally just mistaken.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're mistaken, right? If you're gonna divide your focus between tasks, it's very similar to what we just went through here with the computer and the iPad and the phone. There's only so much bandwidth available on the Wi-Fi. And that's, yeah, there's basically only so much capacity in your brain and ability to focus on so much of one task at a specific time. And your brain doesn't function in terms of being able to process different pieces of information at the same time. It quickly switches from one thing to the next, right? I was having a conversation with a guy at work today about this very thing, and because, you know, it can be a struggle in the workplace as well as at home, anywhere, right? You're trying to multitask, and I was explaining to him, like, chickens, believe it or not, chickens can actually independently use both sides of their brain. So if chicken's looking at you out of this eye and they're looking at something over there, they're processing both of those pieces of information at the same amount at the same time. They've evolved their brains to a point where they can do that. That's not us, right? Our brain is specifically fight or flight. Like, it's what are you gonna do, one or the other, and it can't do both, right? Whereas a chicken can run and mess your shit up, like, right? So, well, how do you manage tasks in a certain way so that, you know, okay, well, it can come as close to multitasking as possible? So, recommendation is grouping similar tasks together. So, we come out and do chores. We have a routine. We're gonna talk about routine in a bit here, but, you know, if I've got to do all my animal feeding at once, let's do all of that. If I've got to do equipment maintenance, I got to do an oil change on the side by side, and I got to do, you know, top oil on the tractor. I'm in the shop. I might as well do all of that at the same time. Limit my travel, and limit the amount of magnetic pull of my focus away from it. Right. So same with, like, you know, and this is a big one that I think a lot of farmers really lack on, and we suffer with it big time. Is like invoicing, right? Or just doing the books, right? Sit down, block off a specific part of time at the end of every week or the end of every day, and just do it, right? Because if you find yourself at the end of March trying to catch up and do it, or do it in between all these other little tasks,
Yeah.
good luck, right? So.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You have to lay this stuff out, like, methodically. So like you say, if you're gonna be doing paperwork specific things, from books to ordering things or whatever, you know, there's no point in starting this in the morning and then going back out and then coming back to it, because who knows what's gonna come at you throughout the day, and you're just gonna end up frustrated.
I did that the other day, actually. I hauled the tractor out, I went out. What did I do? I don't even remember what I did. That's how good I am at this. I went out and I did something with the tractor. I put the tractor away, and then I was walking back towards the house, and the wife peeked out the door, and she's like, "Did you put a straw bale out for the bulls yet?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I did." Because again, I did not group those tasks together. I was just like, I got to do this, and then I got to do this, and then I got to do this. And then the last thing on that list was go bed the bulls. And it just, by the time I got there, because it was going from one place to the next, it was just lost.
Oh yeah.
And then she just looked at me like, you're a complete moron. Like, that was probably the most important thing. Okay, we just got 6 inches of snow. You should probably go out and bed the bulls. So I had to go and drag the tractor back out. And then, so that, although it doesn't take long, it's 30 minutes of your life that could have been better spent, right? So one thing I do in an effort to manage time is I'll have a little notebook, or I use like notes on my phone or whatever, and if something, as I'm going through my routine, if something pops up that I shouldn't address right now, but it's important, I can put a little note in there and be like, oh, I got it, at some point in time, I gotta go run over to Bloom's and pick up feed or whatever, some important thing I gotta do that's not gonna suddenly just interrupt the routine and then just completely derail the day essentially, right? This is good, eh?
It is really good.
So Jeremy, I don't know if you got on or not, but I know you were having some technical difficulties as we were waiting. Just to retouch on that, this is the 1910 Pendleton. It was so kindly donated for this this evening's live stream. Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And if you too would like to enjoy your very own 1910 Pendleton Rye in a very special glass, highly recommend, leave us a comment in the comment section and we'll enter your name into a draw for a set of these custom Bloom Enterprises and Kirkfell Farm cups. Are we doing a comment check? Or
They
what?
are, yeah. So we're gonna have to do this when we reach out to our screens because I missed all of these. Have you ever tried wine-soaked cigars? Not yet. Justin's in.
Wine-soaked cigars. So here's the thing. A number of years ago, I got the travel selection. I think I got this at the Christmas thing, like a liquor Christmas tree or something like that. So I got some Gold Coast Barbados rum, cinnamon whiskey. Might as well just make that disappear. Some Crown Royal and some, what is this? Lid fell off already. Disaronno. That's like a liqueur.
Yeah, that's the commercial. You gotta put that on the rocks.
Yeah. So what I was gonna try to do is actually put this stuff in a shot glass inside of a sealed, I mean, some people say use a Tupperware container. I'm gonna try and find a glass container just because I'm not really keen on the BPAs or whatever toxic stuff is in the plastic. And then you gotta seal up your cigars in there for 3 to 4 weeks. And that is supposed to be amazing for infusing flavor into the cigars. So that won't be a today thing, but we're definitely gonna have to give it a try.
Down the road. Well, yeah, we're learning. Well, Stan made this for anybody that doesn't know. When your cigar goes out,
Yeah, I'm not a complete psychopath packing an ice pick around.
you're supposed to gently scrape off the ash, bore it out a little bit, and relight it.
Prevents you from basically putting burnt ash and bringing it back up inside your cigar, which makes everything taste bitter and acrid.
Yeah. So, and now, so the whole reason we chose this topic for this evening, Chad had mentioned to one of the comments, or
It was on your channel. Wasn't
yeah,
it?
well, we asked for ideas, and he said, forgive me, something about talk about wasted time on the farm. So
Yeah, what is the cost of wasted time?
yeah,
What is
like,
the cost
and
of,
he used the
like
example
mowing
of
10 acres of lawn just for the sake of being busy, or plowing 3 acres of snow across the yard just to be able to turn a truck around, and
so
kind of low value tasks that take an awful lot of effort.
So I'm going to hit on that right now, and we kind of we went further with that to the whole time management thing. But in regards to the specifics of mowing 10 acres or plowing the whole yard when you just need to get your car out, I put this under my comment section of time wasted bliss. And me and my dad talk about this quite a bit because you're seeing on a lot of social medias, they seem to be attacking the young male population because the young male population seems to be so discouraged. So you're watching guys like Jordan Peterson and these get rich quick guys. They're talking to a very influential young male generation. And what I see is such a demoralized young male generation. And you're seeing a lot of people, young men specifically, they don't really want to do anything. They don't want to even mow. They don't even want to mow their yard in town. They don't shovel their driveways anymore. They don't do anything. To me, that's actually quite a shocking development that's cursed the last, let's say, 10 years. Like, people didn't do that before. Like, driveways were shoveled.
No,
Nobody puts up Christmas lights.
it had
Nobody
to be
does
done.
anything. And we have young homeowners, young people in the community, and nobody's doing this anymore. So
You're right, because when we sold our house in town, we had, I think maybe we didn't have, I would say we had like the second nicest yard in the, we wasn't quite a cul-de-sac, but the outside round of the corner. We had probably the second nicest yard in the street, we'll say that. And then we sold the house to a young gentleman who, 19 or 20 years old, and we come by, and it's just like, it's disheartening to see the degradation of things that you took pride in. And,
Yeah.
and you have to be like, well, am I just turning into that grumpy old guy, or what's going on here? And yeah, no, it's whether it's a lack of a strong male figure in their life, or too much demand on their time, or I don't know. I couldn't possibly imagine sitting in the house playing video games and not thinking about what's happening outside my yard.
Absolutely.
Like that, to me, the yard and what it looks like is a reflection of my character,
Yeah.
right?
And when I had written this down, so I guess the more you have to do, the more you have to do, right? So I mean, if you got a little yard in town and you got to mow the grass, that's one thing. If you got 140 acres and you got to tend to all that, or 160, whatever, or more, it's more. But the whole thing about this time wasted bliss is, as long as you're getting the rest of the stuff done, I think it's important to take that time.
100%.
Just climb on the lawnmower and just grab a beer, and that's your time.
Sometimes the mindless task is what helps you reset from all the other stress that we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Well, when you listed anxious, depression, stuff like that, how can you really be too down on yourself if the sun's shining in July and breeze is blowing and you're mowing your property? Like this stuff is important. It's not. We shouldn't be always looking down our nose at it like, oh my God, I got to mow the grass, and that's such a irrelevant task. It's not. It's back to the mental health. It's part of that. I actually joked in high school that if I could get a job weed whacking all day long, I'd be in heaven. And one of the guys I was talking to, he just burst out laughing. He's like, you can get that job. Like, why then do that?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that jobs like that usually don't.
I don't know how you're going to feed a family of four on that.
Right,
but
that's the thing. So you got to do other things. And my point is, our heads are filled with things that have to be done. And if you can, the animals have to be fed, the fence got to be fixed, bags of, in my case, I got to make bags of feed, I got to fill molasses totes, that's what I do for a job. Those things have to be done. So if you can, climb in a snowplow tractor and just give her for a few hours, that's the total. To me, that's where it's at.
yeah, man, I tell you, this stuff is dangerously good.
I know
You're nursing one.
Well, you're knocking through that pretty good, yep. But
one more, hit the reset button. And then we should talk about the time audit. How do you know how much you're wasting if you don't know how much you're spending? You getting 1,001 comments in there or what?
Justin's chasing pigs right now.
Oh no, there's nothing worse than that.
I can't tell you how to be more efficient, but I can tell you going from a place that was super duper, I wish these wouldn't turn off. Now I lost it all.
Yeah, they just.
Sorry guys. We'll get this figured out one day. Super duper efficient to a place that was a little different was a huge problem for me at first, better now. People are losing their sense of community, and with that is the sense of pride too. That is a really good point, Chad. Absolutely.
A very good point, yeah.
Kids have to be overwhelmed with technology. Their self-motivation is very low compared to when we grew up. That's definitely true. When my dad and I talk about that, we wonder what can be done to, and it seems, as from what I can see, it's a young male thing. And I don't know how we get the drive back into them. I'm only 33, I'm not old, but I definitely have drive. And how do you let that rub off on somebody else? I don't know.
I seen this last weekend, when we talked about that community spirit thing. We took Charlotte to the swimming pool, and the lady behind the desk, I'd never seen the lady behind the desk before, and evidently she'd never seen me, and she says, have you ever been here before? And I said, yeah, a time or two. She's like, oh, okay, do you need any information about the place? And I said, no. I said, I was on the committee that designed this building. So I know every square inch of that building, inside and out. And she just looked at me and she was just amazed. She's just like, people like that don't exist, right? That are that involved in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad. Like, I mean, you've got a whole group of people that don't know when to say no. And then a whole nother group of people that don't know how to say yes to anything. Right?
Yeah.
Or don't know how to say anything but no.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes you have to look beyond yourself into what you can do for the world, right?
And if you have too much lawn, then maybe you're missing out on family time, for other activities. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I got that in here, and I'm sure Stan has it in there too. Usually
What was
our,
the question? Too
that
much
was,
time for other activities?
Chad just said, if you got too much lawn to mow, maybe you're missing out on other things by spending all that time mowing the grass. And I know I got it in here, and I'm sure you do too, because generally our notes cross over quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a goat, you could get, chicken tractors, there's all kinds of stuff. That's the one thing we do with the lawn here in the summertime is we just use chicken tractors. We mow probably 60% of our entire lawn and grow all our protein.
Yeah,
And all it takes me is about a minute and a half in the morning at 5:30 in the morning before I head off to work to go do that, right?
how do you prioritize what tasks need to come first? Yeah, we're gonna get into that. I'm just gonna,
Okay, so
oh, yeah, give her.
let's talk about that one. How do you prioritize? Well, first thing, again, I said before, you can't really understand what it is you don't measure. So you gotta do a time audit, right? So a lot of us get to the, hey, look at that. See, we are aligned.
Realistic time allotment.
A lot of us arrive at the end of the workday and we're just like, where did it all go, right? And it's pretty common to wonder why you didn't get as much done as what you thought you were gonna, or what you expected to. And the chances are, it's not that you have too much to do. There's actually a really good chance you're just wasting more time than what you realize, right? So there's a lot of discrepancy between how you think you spend your time, how you actually spend your time, and it's probably worthwhile actually keeping a journal of that and logging it for, maybe just a week, right? Doesn't have to be complicated. Get a timer. We all got smartphones now with timers on it. Set it for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Go out, if you have a routine, start your routine, and the timer goes off after 15 minutes, see where you're at, right? Okay, what am I doing at that specific point in time? And you gotta be honest with yourself. You might be in the chicken house, but if you're doing a Snapchat or a TikTok in the chicken house, that's what you gotta write down, right? Or if you're checking an email or whatever, maybe it is a productive thing, but it's a productive thing that's taking you away from another productive thing is a thing that's not prioritized properly, right? So start the timer, begin your day. Another thing you can do is actually go out and think, okay, well, I've got to feed chickens today. How long does it actually take me to go from the house to the grain bin, back to the chicken house, feed the chickens, and then take my bucket back to the grain bin? How long does that take? 3 minutes, 37 seconds, okay, right? So once you've done all that, set your timer for another 30 minutes, repeat the process, come back and see where you're at in the next 30 minutes, right? And have some review of how you spent your time, right? So how many times do you identify you're doing something that wasn't productive? Because I'll be the first to admit, I look at a lot of butterflies throughout the day.
Oh,
I really
Christ.
do, right? I get sidetracked real easy. I'll stand over here, I'm feeding sheep, and I'll stand over there, and Carmen gets super frustrated. She's like, what are you doing out there? Like, you should be able to feed the sheep in like 15 minutes, and you're gone for like 3 hours. And I've got this lame excuse, well, this is all about animal husbandry and paying attention to my animals and looking at little characteristics of them and getting to know them so that I can know when something's going wrong with them. And there's some value in that, but maybe not 3 hours a day kind of value, right? So if you conduct an audit every day for about a week, get a good overview of how you're spending your time. And again, you can vary the time frequency between check-ins. 30 minutes or 15 minutes is really just an example. You can do it for an hour or whatever works for you, right? But if you're finding that you're spending too much time on non-productive tasks, that's where you know you've got to clip things. And then from there, if you're working on a routine, say, okay, well, I know it takes me 3 minutes and 37 seconds to feed the chickens. That's an average time. Okay, well, now I start to think about, I need to challenge the routine in terms of why does it take me 3 minutes and 37 seconds to feed the chickens? Is there something I can streamline? Is there something I can automate? If I got to do something every single day, then there's probably a chance to make that thing a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
So we've done stuff here with round bales, hay nets, fork feeding hay over. We're trying to try a little bit of everything, and in our early inception years, as we learn too on the farm, finding what works best. But sometimes the weather throws a loop at you, right? This year, or last year, massive drought, massive feed shortage, all the efficiencies that we had by just chucking a round bale on a feeder and coming back in 10 days, gone, right?
Yeah.
So I've also got to think the downside of, well, it's worth my time to spend 15 more minutes out hand feeding the animals,
Yeah.
so that come March, I'm not looking at an empty bale yard,
Yeah,
right? So a little bit of time now sometimes is actually valuable. But I remember growing up on, like with the dairy, if you were done at 7:15, there was a problem. You had to be done precisely at 7 a.m. 15 minutes is a long time when you're looking at 4-hour milking period, right? So think about that over a week or a month, 15 minutes, how much that eats of your life. That's the difference between eating breakfast or not eating breakfast, right?
absolutely.
And the other thing is these little interruptions that come throughout your day. So say you're focused on a task and you have a little interruption, or you see a squirrel or whatever, you see this one thing that, while I'm on my way here, I should just do this one thing. How much time does it take you to drop what you're doing, orient yourself to that new task, complete that new task, and then reorient yourself back to the existing task, if you even make it back there? Right, that's a
Yeah.
huge thing. So there's a study done in, I forget the university, but it's down in the States. Oh, maybe it wasn't the States. University of Guelph, where's that? Is that Ontario?
Yeah,
Okay, University of Guelph did this study. 4 hours of the average workday, of the average 10-hour workday, 4 hours is spent wasted on interruptions, because you're orienting yourself to a new task and then reorienting yourself back to the original task. So that's going to cost, like the North American economy, hundreds of billions of dollars every year in
Yeah.
basically lost wage on productive time, right? So
yeah, and I can definitely follow that number, because like I know, so specifically when I make the bags of feed, now this year was a bit different. This year got so crazy busy, but normally I could kind of keep up, and I'd be on my phone all day long answering questions, texting, messengering people, emailing people, or trying to call them, which the call was the most frustrating thing, because I got my earplugs in and all the machines running.
Yeah.
Not to mention now you're holding your phone and you can't set it down to do things. So this year, actually, I had to shift the whole thing away. At night, I write all the tickets that I had ordered for that day, and then I make those basically till noon, and then I have to stop,
yeah,
because nothing else is getting done. The tractors aren't being serviced. The feed bins aren't being filled if you're just dedicating all the time to there. So, and when you said, to actually figure out what this stuff takes, generally when I'm watching things, I can judge the time it's going to take people fairly closely, actually, especially when it comes to mechanical stuff. But if I'm involved in it,
other people?
I'm a total nightmare. Total nightmare. Especially if it's a time specific thing, like something around, say, a breakdown in the fall or whatever. I full well know this is going to take all day. By the time you run to town, get the parts, come back. And I'm a nightmare, because if it's not done in 20 minutes, but I full well, and if I'm not involved, I can be like, oh, it's going to take them all day.
Yeah.
So trying to rationalize that, I'm getting a little bit better at that, especially when you have other people now involved that maybe aren't quite as psychotic. They don't appreciate that, so you gotta dial it back.
It's true. My father-in-law asked me for help for baling last summer over on the neighbor's place, and we got down there. The baler it wasn't working. Something between the baler and the whatever you call that box that's in the tractor, right?
Yeah.
The brain box. It's not working. So he's like, run over to my neighbor's place, grab this other baler, we'll plug it in and then go. So okay, well, I can't just run over there with the tractor, because it's going to take 7 hours to get all the way to Rio Grande in the old case tractor. So run home, grab my pickup, try and find a hitch. He's like, no, I got a hitch. You don't have to worry about it. I'm glad I spent like 8 minutes in my shop digging for a hitch, because I got out there and he did not have a hitch. Get out to his neighbor's place. He's like, yeah, the baler's just inside the shop. It's no problem. Just hook onto it and just come. Okay, well, you get there and there's pallets and spare tires and just crap just stacked all over this thing. And so then he phones, and it's like 3 hours later, and he's like, oh, how you making out? And he's thinking I've already made 40 bales by this time. Right? And I'm like, I'm just leaving Rio Grande. And you could hear it in his voice, like, oh, you're not my favorite son-in-law anymore. But I get out there, and then I get everything hooked up, and then, the new tractor, and I get it working, but it's still not working great. And then so he phones again, how you making out? And I got 2 bales made, and before you know, I think I only made like 10 bales in that whole day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just funny how something simple, like a little breakdown, and then having to go get an alternate piece of machinery can really derail the whole thing, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I had it here. Like, not understanding what it's going to take is going to be the demoralizer hiding in the closet. Like, as soon as this happens and it takes infinitely longer, there's no way you can pull out of that. And the last part I had here, and it gets kind of back to what Chad was saying: if you got too much grass to mow, you're not going to spend any time with your family, and that is true. But the thing is, if you don't know how long your day takes when you're working, you're also not going to spend any time. So, if you make a Saturday plan and you think like, all right, I'm going to throw 3 or 4 1-hour projects on a list, take an hour for lunch, and then I'm going to go out in the afternoon, a few hours sledding with the kids.
Have a good time with the family. Right?
If you've underestimated those 3 or 4 1-hour projects, now you're in trouble, right? Because
you'll be husband of the year in no time.
if everything's taking you half an hour longer, now you're mad, now you're frustrated, now you work through lunch, so you don't take that hour, and now you're mad because you're hungry. You don't even have everything done. Now you're just mad, and you're not even if you got the time, you're not doing it now.
You've pissed the
Right?
wife off before she's pissed off.
Everybody's mad, and then so this whole getting things figured out and realistically figuring them out. My dad and I used to joke too, like, you give you 15 minutes for rig service, right? Didn't matter if you're on a super single or rod rig or on a 6,000 meter triple.
Easiest thing in the world to
You
do.
can't even get up the stairs on a triple in 15 minutes. Like,
You gotta be hauling her.
like there's no and you know what, we joke about that all the time. Like, Dad says you can't even get the tools together.
How did you do it? How did you do it back in the day? Because we had a way of doing it.
Well,
It was unconventional.
on the doubles, the motor hand had the pails of oil all full with the oil soak pads on top, so nothing could get in there. And we used to pretend we were a NASCAR pit crew. Every roughneck had a grease gun, and we'd chain that brake handle down and gone like a shot. Did we get everything? No, never. Those rigs were terribly underserviced, but we did a pretty good job in 15 minutes.
What was that movie where there's that Harlow? Is it Harlow something? Right? He's in that movie. He's like, you ever hear the 6-minute abs? Well, I'm gonna do the 5-minute abs. So this is what we did. We did the 14-minute rig service. We'd have the oil sitting there, usually a pail and a half too much oil. We'd have a guy pull the bung and another guy dumping oil, and we wouldn't even we wouldn't even stop trip pipe. Away we go, eh? Oil pressures just down there. And we would just keep pouring oil until it came out golden brown at the bottom of the drain plug and put the plug back in and go to the fill. And 14 minutes.
Alberta's finest.
Yeah. And then if you ever took downtime, well then of course you got to change filters, right? But can't shut her down, don't got time, right?
I guess that's how you do the 15-minute rig service. Like I say, when that triple that I worked on, there's no way you couldn't walk around that thing in 15
No, you
minutes.
can't.
There was
Way
nothing
too
getting
big,
done.
way
Nothing.
too big.
But I mean, realistically, then you need like an hour to do this properly. We had 3 3412 generators. We had
Well, yeah, it's an hour and a half prep time before you even start, right?
right. So this realistic time. If you're new into farming, you're new into agriculture, hobby farming, homesteading, whatever you're doing, I would say, in my limited experience on this planet, I've realized this now, is get this stuff figured out. Like you said, get it figured out. Know what it takes you. And if there's a way to streamline this, I'm going to have that in here. I got elimination by automation coming up. Then you can move to that. Like Stan said, tasks you're doing every day that we should be able to cut
If
the
you've
corners.
measured it, you can manipulate it.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes that means you might need to have a tough conversation, right? You might need to have a little humility. Maybe you got to make your wife cry because you're selling the donkey, and that's part of it. I mean, sometimes nobody wants to have less to do, but sometimes that's what needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
If you evaluate your time and how much time it takes you and how much time you have available, what's the time requirement to do it properly versus how much time does it take you? Because if you're just taking shortcuts every day, what is your weekend gonna look like? Well, you're not gonna go sledding with the kids because you'll be scrambling to get things done properly,
Yeah.
right? So we specifically try and schedule time on the farm so that our daily tasks take a little bit less, and then we catch up on the weekends. But if we're purposely trying to take shortcuts, then the weekends aren't gonna belong to us, right? So that's gonna be, you're not gonna have a very happy wife or a very happy life, right?
No.
So think about, are there opportunities to reduce time, automate processes, cut things out entirely, right? Like we do stuff with the chicken feed. I made a little thing that goes over top of the chicken feeder. It's not good for you. Sorry about this, but cut my chicken feed bill in like almost like in half, right? Because they're not shoveling chicken feed out and throwing it on the floor and wasting it.
Well, I have an argument to not being good for me. Is it good for me if you can't afford to keep the chickens? Because you're wasting all your feed?
There you go, right there.
It's not good.
Close the loop.
Close the loop.
Yeah, if I go bankrupt feeding chickens, it gets wasted, and eventually I don't have chickens.
And I don't got nothing to do.
You're down all your profit, whereas I'm only losing half. So, but yeah, there's things you could do. Installing an automatic heated water, back in water. That's one reason why we don't keep pigs in the wintertime, is because that's a brutal, inefficient way of use of our time during the winter months, right? So an automatic heated water is going to cost you, say, $1,000 to rig one in, right? But the longevity of that thing is probably 20, 25 years. So it's really only cost you like, what would be like $11 a year or something, like $10 a year or something, pretty low cost, right? And it's going to create so much efficiency for you. So I think that's where you're going to get into with automating processes here, eh? You seen some more comments there?
Yeah, just I know that you missed a few too. I think
really?
Before we get to, well, they're not popping up, but before we get to the next bullet.
Yeah, see, I'm not getting any comments pop up on mine.
I didn't. Well, I got this one, and that's why I looked. But you got to, you got to do this,
Oh,
and then they're
that's
all
what I'm
there.
doing
That's
wrong.
why you're missing all of them.
I'll make plans for, let's say, 4 things to do in a day. I'm happy if I get 2 done, only because I understand something will always come up. Yeah.
You had more than that. You got to scroll down. You had all these. What is Chad saying? I'm with you, Robin. Being in charge, you have a lot more pressure on you because I've got 2 or 3 people staring at me, wondering what we're going to do with the breakdown. Yeah, with Dad and the kids helping, I find I am more planning and fixing now rather than doing. It's been a big shift in my thinking, but someone needs to keep everyone organized and going. Yeah, so that's the thing too. If you and we get into that too with asking for help. I had that one in here, and I think you and I talked about this before we started. If you're going to get more people involved and everyone's going to look to you, then you gotta watch this live stream.
Yeah.
Because you are going to need to know all of these things because everyone is looking to you. And it's something that I realized with my dad. He's kind of pulling back from the doing. He doesn't, like he said, he doesn't mind addressing. He doesn't mind coming out and tinkering in the shop. He doesn't want to make decisions anymore.
There's tons of us in this business right now that we've got a generation above us that's looking for us to basically take up the mantle.
Yep.
And then we're also at the age group where we've got young kids that they are the future of agriculture.
Yep.
So we have a double-edged responsibility in some terms to pick up the mantle from the generation before us, but also imprint that love of the land and agriculture and animal husbandry to the generation below us.
Absolutely.
Right? And that, that may seem like there's a lot of pressure attached. We talk about stress and how things can be overwhelming. But we talk about time management and, okay, what does it take to take the farm from your parents? That can be an overwhelming task. But at the same time, do I want to be efficient, or do I want to drag my 3 or 4-year-old kid with me around? Because when they're 15 and I need somebody to bale hay, where are they going to be? If they're off in town having a good time with their buddies because they have no interest in the farm, that's probably not good for the future of agriculture.
No.
Right? That's not good for the health of the farm. So spending a little bit more time now while they're young, and you do this, I do this. If it takes me 3 times as long to involve the kids now, so that in a few years, that's going to be almost intuitive for them to just go out and be involved in it.
And that
I'll spend the time now.
Absolutely, that's one thing. And Chad didn't mention it. Unfortunately, you don't. Well, you got your kids got your in-law, your grandpa here, but like I got my parents. So if I got to do a lot of work, my dad can take my boy in the tractor.
Yeah.
So you got the third and the first doing they're doing things, and then the middle
And they're tying together with agriculture.
Well, but yeah, and then the middle guy is kind of doing the important shit, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And they're doing whatever. Also, we got quite a few people jumped on stands here, and a few more on mine. I do want to hash this before Stan starts his next point. We do have these cups. If you aren't aware of that, we give these away on the live streams. All you got to do to be entered in to win is comment. After these upload, we will go back to the live chat. We'll put everybody's name in a whatever I can find on the internet. I found a ball picker thing last time. Put your name on that, and you can win a cup. So Jeremy won last time. I don't think Jeremy's even here, but we got another set to go for.
Probably managing his time.
He's probably managing his time. Not as efficiently as we are, though, because we're learning things. We are learning things.
Well, and that's part of time management too. And this is, okay, well, it's YouTube time or whatever, and I've said this before in a number of other videos. If you have a Netflix subscription, you're probably leaving crop in the field, right? There's time, things that you can do with that time. I mean, we come from a multi-income family, so we both work full-time, plus manage the farm on the side. And so there's not a lot of TV time in the evenings. There's not TV time, but there's not a lot. And some folks wonder, well, how do you manage how do you manage to work full-time, have kids, farm, volunteer in the community? How do you do all that? And it comes at the cost of not blowing your brains out watching Desperate Housewives and stupid stuff that's probably just going to kill brain cells anyways, right? So that's part of the next thing I want to talk about, is like blocking out those distractions, right? So if you've done a time audit and you've looked at your routine and you've streamlined that as much as you can, you've identified where your lag time is, your distractions are, because maybe you're TikToking in the chicken house, or you're Snapchatting with the sheep, or whatever it is you do, right?
I'm on that now too. Thank you, Justin.
You're on the Snapchat.
When Justin said
Or the TikTok.
The TikTok.
You're on TikTok.
I didn't do a thing yet.
Yeah.
Jesus,
I find, like, if you go on Facebook and you see those 15-minute videos or 15-second videos, I'll find myself there like 2.5 hours later and like,
well, I got
what
to,
have I done
I got
with
to,
my life?
You know, this is the thing. Like, you end up down this rabbit hole. I watched because I don't know how it works. I guess maybe you click on them and then you get to their profile and you get to see all their TikToks. But I ended up on some hairdresser's TikTok talking about like unruly customers. Yeah, hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's like a drug, right?
Well, I had to dedicate like my time from like 11 at night to midnight for
You've got to schedule
the absolute worst hour of you could spend doing something for that time when you should be sleeping.
Yeah, I can't.
And then I gotta grind kind of in the morning. So I'm running on, and that's I think probably it's not good to have TikTok.
Probably not at 11 o'clock at night.
Well, you can't have it because you're going to use it at some point during the day.
Yeah.
I've just elected to use it from 11 to 12 because then everybody's out of my hair and no one can judge me except everybody. But yeah, you got to get rid of it because
you're really
losing
pulling your pants down.
You're losing sleep.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So what? You got to block that thing out, right? And if social media is your downfall, whatever that particular app is, whether it's Face Chat or TikTok or what, there's all these different ones out there, right? Maybe on your smartphone or whatever device it is that you have to pack around with you for productivity. Usually for you, it's probably the phone because you have 1,000 customers a day phoning you for feed or whatever, right? Maybe TikTok shouldn't be on there, right? Remove the temptation, therefore remove the distraction, right?
Yeah.
Or in some cases, maybe it's not practical to do that because you only have one device. You don't have a tablet or something or a computer that you check at the house. Maybe just adjust the notification settings. It's not going bing, 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 bing every time you're climbing in and out of the tractor. And,
Agreed.
Right? So
Agreed.
Shut that crap off. It's not beeping every time somebody sends you like a hilarious tractor video or you're watching unruly customers at the salon or whatever it is, right? So unless it's critical to your job, right, the odds are it's probably not something that you need to know about every time somebody interacts with you on social media, right?
Although I did learn, if you want to get a straight shave in that state, you have to be licensed as a barber. Like, not just anybody can do that.
Yeah, you can't just be a hairdresser.
I didn't know that.
There's a
Well,
whole
she
thing
explained
around
it.
barbers. Yeah.
I know that now.
That's a deadly weapon, right?
I kind of just figured you could do whatever you want, but I guess not. So
On your own time, I guess.
now I know.
Running, what do they call that? Bootlegging barber shops out in the back alley.
So what do we got next? Ask for help, create a plan so unfamiliar people with the task can help you. That's my next one anyways.
Create a plan so unfamiliar, okay, so
So
sometimes free help's not all, you gonna get what you pay for? Is that where you're going with this one or what?
yeah, absolutely. So like you say, if you're gonna be working, you know, on a family farm, you're gonna have the the generation on their way out is gonna be involved. The generation that's taken over is gonna be doing it, and you got some teenage kids helping you. Uh, you can't do all these things by yourself, so you're gonna have to. There's just gonna be times when you need help. If these people don't know what you're doing, and you expect them to help, this is gonna eat up all your day.
For sure it will.
You have to make this, and this is one thing that I had an argument with my wife one day, and I said, I want people to know what to do. Like that, you know, I don't want to have to say, go to town and get fertilizer. I want you to know that the truck is empty and it needs to be filled.
Yeah, pre-job planning.
What a selfish thing to say. Like, how does she know? She's got 2 little kids, got like other things to do, and all I'm doing is going round and round in the tractor.
Yeah.
With literally alarms that tell me how full things are.
Yeah,
So I've done a lot of growing in the last couple of years, for sure. You know, that's this mentally, potentially physically or life-saving thing of asking for help. If you can't get this stuff done and you irritate everybody that's there to help you, it's not gonna go well.
there's a fine line between telling people things they need to know and maybe being condescending. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Yeah, yeah.
Where was I did this on my notepad, so the spelling is atrocious. It auto-corrected a bunch of things on here.
Autocorrect is the worst, yeah, because then you have no idea what the hell you were trying to say, right?
Yeah. So I had one example, when before we moved to the farm, I'd end up out there hauling grain by myself. In the spring, I'd always end up stuck. Of course, now I didn't have anybody there. And I'm expecting this probably happen. I kind of hope it happens. I hope I'm not just the one stupid guy that does this. But I'd go grab a tractor, about a 40-foot sling, and I'd back right up to the truck that was stuck. I'd throw the tractor in A1, click the diff lock in, hop out, jump in the truck, and then by the time the tractor got far enough ahead to pull the slack out of the rope, then I could go out, and then I'd throw the truck into neutral, and then I'd run back into the tractor, and then stop the tractor, and I wouldn't be stuck anymore.
Your wife's not going to watch this, is she?
I didn't realize how stupid that was until a buddy of mine explained. He's like, "What if the rope broke?"
That's your life insurance policy.
Right? So I thought, well, I mean, the tractor doesn't go that fast, but I mean, like literally anything could happen. You know, you fall out of the tractor and die.
Imagine trying to get back in the tractor and you slip and that thing's moving and you just.
So we can't be doing well, we shouldn't be doing dumb things like that. We have to ask for help when we need it. That's going to
Sometimes
make
humility's hard to come by, but it's necessary, right?
your day go on. So if you're frustrated and you're not getting the help you need, and you're not letting people know, obviously probably the response you're going to get is, we don't even know what the hell you're doing. Like we don't know what you're doing.
You can't be frustrated and mad at people because you're overworked if you're not asking for help, right? You can be frustrated and mad all you want if you're asking for help and not getting it. But that's maybe the time where you need to have the humility and say, I can't do this by myself. Right? And then have a sincere conversation with your spouse about what they're willing to do. So that's the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule.
I had that in here. That was coming right up.
Okay, well we'll get to that here in a bit, I guess. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, if you're going to worry about how you're going to fit all of your stuff into your everyday, then I mean that's going to put a strain on your productivity. That's going to put a strain on your familiar relationships. Right? Worrying about all that crap you got to do, it's gonna hamper your ability to actually do it. And when we're stressed, we're not only struggling to stay productive, but it's leading us to work longer hours. So it's compounding the problem, right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're gonna start the morning with a to-do list, I know a lot of people do this. They write down a to-do list. That too can be overwhelming if you're not checking those boxes at the end of the day. Right, you've got a lot to accomplish. Use a calendar tool, right? That's one thing I do. I mean, my time in the workday is scheduled almost to the minute, right? Some people think, well, that's a bit aggressive, but sometimes that's what you have to do, right? You don't schedule it that tightly. For me, anyways, I find, what am I gonna do with that 3 minutes? Yeah, I'll probably end up on TikTok or something stupid, wasting my time, right? Right, so. If you're not blocking off time for yourself, you're not gonna be very productive, right? So do your time audit, block stuff off. If you're in the habit of reacting to every single thing that bleeps or blurps or goes on in the background, or crashes in the background, every little occurrence as it happens, guaranteed you're interrupting your workflow, right? If you're interrupting your workflow, we said this before, right? If you drop one thing, it takes you time to put something down, and it takes you time to pick something up, and it takes you even longer to pick that original thing back up, right? So if you're just like, I'm going to feed chickens, and then they're like, oh, I need to see how big the pigs are, because I don't know when they're gonna go to market, so now I'm gonna go look for a piece of string, and well, how long is a piece of string, right? And then I gotta go back, oh shit, I forgot to feed the chickens, and then you look out the window at 11 p.m. as you're just going to bed, and you're like, oh, the light's on in the chicken house, I never did feed the chickens. That's not fair to chickens, never mind everything else that's on the farm, right? So make sure you're back on track. Make sure these little tangents that you think are, helping you multitask, they're not, right? So having a schedule, blocking time off for specific things, avoiding these tangents, that's what helps you avoid, prioritize things and avoid being distracted by things that probably aren't that important at all, right? Talked about multitasking already. How much is your time worth?
How much is mine worth?
Yeah.
A lot.
How much is your time worth to other people?
Oh, maybe not so much.
We got any more comments on here? How did you find that anyways?
You just scroll up. This is the best. Well, thank you. I don't know what that is. I think that might not be one.
Okay, I got a whole mess of them I missed here.
You did miss a lot.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm not ignoring you. I'll make plans for, let's say, 4 things to do today. I'm happy if I get 2 done, only because I understand something will always come up. Absolutely being realistic with your planning. Get up an hour earlier. Don't come in for dinner till 8. You know what? That's not necessarily a bad plan. I think it's important to, it's definitely important to eat properly. So, and I fall victim to this as much as anybody, and I definitely did this today. And you skip lunch or whatever, and then you eat like a wild animal when you come in for supper time, and then you decide to have a cigar and a whiskey, and you sit here cooking off with heartburn, like it's going out of stuff. It's maybe not that great for your health, but I'm a big believer in getting up early, but getting up early is not the sole source of defining your productivity, right? If you get up an hour early, what do you do with that time?
It has always shocked the shit out of me that you feed chickens at 5 in the morning. It just boggles my mind.
Well, during the wintertime, I typically don't feed chickens at 5 in the morning. I'm usually feeding sheep by 5:30 in the morning. But summertime, when it's daylight out, I'll be up at 5, and I'm moving the chicken tractors and getting on with it. Because that's one more thing. Like summertime, I have that one more task, right?
Yeah.
So I got to get up that little bit early to do that. But, if you're going to get up that early, maybe that's a good time. Like on the weekends, for instance, I can't sleep until 8, 9 o'clock. Some people can sleep until like crazy hours of the day. I can't, right? So I get up early, and that's my non-productive time.
I gotta sleep in so I can get that TikTok in
Yeah,
from
yeah,
11 to 12.
well, there you go. But so on a weekend, that's okay. Well, I'll get up at 6, and I'll sit in the big chair, and I'll watch 2 or 3 Bloom Family Farm videos or whatever. See what's happening on the neighbor's farm over the last few days, and kind of catch up on world events or something like that. But through the week, why do I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Well, last I checked, the folks on the East Coast had been already up for 2-3 hours making decisions about what the rest of my day is going to look like.
I said that Steve
Right.
Harvey had really affected your day.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me. And it was something that was always a principle for me, but I'd never had anybody actually come out and say it out loud.
Yeah.
And it's true, right? You got folks on the East Coast that are already deciding how the rest of your day is going to go. Why wouldn't I want to be a part of that? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I want to be the author of my own story? So get up early, get your work done, And there's lots of days where, I mean, I was in the office at 6 o'clock this morning at work, and I see other guys roll in at 7 or 8 o'clock, and I'm leaving the office at 4, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna be here, and it's gonna be dark out, and I'm gonna see everybody leaving the parking lot. Well, show up, get here early. Maybe, so then I get home, and I've got 2 hours to do stuff on the farm. Well, I've got a little bit of daylight, right? Daylight's a huge limiting factor for us here, especially in northern Alberta, 6 months of the year. You get like, what, 8 hours daylight? 6 hours of daylight some days,
Oh, yeah.
right? So it makes sense to just get up a little bit earlier in the day, right? But anyways, that's a tangent in and of itself. We're not managing our time very well. We were talking about what is your time worth? So you probably have these. Okay, I'm going to put myself on the line. I'm not going to put you on the line because you have customers and you're going to want to respect them. But if you have a person that comes over every week to buy eggs, and they stay to tell you their life story every single week, you know, you're talking about the visits that you have nothing to contribute to that conversation other than your own wasted time, right? That's an hour of your time you're never going to get back. It's an hour of your time you're not going to spend feeding sheep, collecting eggs, washing eggs, feeding pigs, doing whatever it is you have to do on your farm that you're never going to get back, right? So if that is a problem for you, in terms of this doesn't serve any kind of larger marketing purpose, right? If I'm not having a conversation about the products we sell or the way in which we raise our food, because I'm thinking down the stream, I'm going to be able to sell this person a lamb or some organic chicken, or maybe I'll get them, so their cousins or their brother's sister's wife is going to bring in, or they're going to buy eggs too. If it doesn't serve any kind of a marketing purpose, and we're not working on building any kind of a business relationship at this point, this person is just literally sitting there wasting my time. You do need to be courteous, but you need to cut that stuff off, right? Because if I'm burning $40 of my time to sell $4 worth of eggs, that's not efficient at all, right? So you've got to be upfront with some of those folks and just say, you know what, thanks for coming by to get your eggs. Really appreciate it. I'd love to stay and chat. I've got 1,000 things to do today. Maybe when I have, you know, less on the go, we can sit down and chat or whatever, right? But today's a hair straight back kind of day, right? And most folks will be respectful and courteous and understand that, right? They'll be like, oh, sure, okay, sorry, I didn't, you know.
That is funny that you bring that up.
But that's a real problem,
Because
right?
I struggle with that a lot. I even lost my temper a few times. I can't.
And you can't, because you can lose a customer that way,
Well,
right?
well, what goes into your 80-20 thing too, though, right? 20%.
80% of your problems come from 20% of the people, and 80% of your production come from the other 20%?
Maybe, yeah, might be
Or
time to.
20% of your value?
It is. See, that's the whole thing too about the whole, you know, the whole egg community is generally there's time for that. So when you try to make an actual business out of it, we talked about this about 4 or 5 years ago. I went to a grain marketing seminar type thing, and the general consensus from the farmers sitting at the tables is they're not businessmen. They never were. They didn't want
What
to
are
be. They never wanted to be. They just wanted to be farmers.
They just love the land.
And then the whole system changed. That now, if you take over a farm of any size, you have to be a businessman, or you will not survive anymore. The world moves that fast. It never used to
Well, I
move that
believe that.
fast.
I believe that. We started from the ground up. We're $1 million in the hole.
Yeah,
If you're not a businessman, you're going to stay in the hole.
yeah. You gotta be.
Right.
You have to be grinding on to the next thing. So this thing is stuffing me up now. I took one right.
This
I
is,
took one right in the nostril, and it's.
This is very,
gonna
very
sneeze.
woody, right? What,
I'm gonna sneeze. It's
like
yeah.
it's,
Whew, all right.
I'm not sure. I would say this is like willow bark. Not
It wasn't
really.
as good as the other one.
I'm not getting any kind of chocolate or vanilla. I'm definitely getting the leather and the wood. What was the other flavor that was supposed to be in there?
Leather, wood, and it was coffee or something.
Coffee. I'm not getting any coffee.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm getting stuffed up, but it is what it is. So yeah, for me, well, what if they don't respectfully understand that you're busy? Then what do you do?
Well,
You know, and I'll just say this because I doubt this guy's watching, and if he is, I'm sorry. I drove my telehandler home,
yeah,
right? Made it all the way home. It was about a 2-hour drive, hit the ditch right at the last turn in my house. So there it is, sitting, idling, no fuel in it almost, because, you know, the guy didn't fill it up when I bought it. Almost flipped over, stuck in the ditch. 2 people drive down the road and want their bags. I just got Corey to get the kids set up in the house.
did they ask
Cool.
you before they showed up?
Oh, I knew they were coming,
You knew they were
but they
coming?
had to come right then. Like, they didn't know I was stuck. It's just the way it worked out.
The universe put
So
that in
I'm
your
looking,
lap.
I'm thinking, okay, and Corey just got the kids watching TV. She comes out, get the other tractor to pull me out. I told him, I said, look, I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna load you, then you can get on your way and I can get going.
Yeah,
I have 2 ways in and out of the farm.
Sure.
Neither one of them elected to go around the other way. They both came back to where I was trying to set up the tow ropes and things. The first guy kind of did go through. The next guy stopped and got out of his truck. And I was like, I asked him, I said, can you please just go? Like, I'm in the middle of something. You can see that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he said, I lost it. I don't know if he'll ever come back. But I was like, you don't work here. Like, it's not your problem. This is my problem. And it's actually a problem. So either I got to shut everything off before it runs out of oil because it's on its side and then talk to you about whatever, or you can just, and then you're like, if I said this, you can't get around me. So please just
go.
So
now.
that what do you do? They won't, you know,
Yeah, and maybe it's
that really
maybe
happened.
it's you got to spell it out for them. I mean, unless you really want to spend the next 3 hours of your day here while I get under this cluster.
I also don't like
whatever.
being watched when I've made a mistake.
You weren't getting the tow strap out, were you?
I was getting the back whole line because
not
it
gonna,
was,
like-
it was so icy. I had to dig the ice away so I could get traction.
You're not like putting one in neutral and putting the other one in drive.
No, I had Corey come out, right? She came out to help me. So the kids are inside looking after themselves, 3 and 5, which is fine. We trust our kids; they'll be all right. But we don't want to leave them in there indefinitely for 5 hours where you're standing outside talking to somebody. Well, everything's
Not a chance, right?
you know. It's just I thought like this is to me it was so insane. Like you can see this is not going well. Come back another time, eh?
Sometimes you just got to get on the phone and just text your wife and hey, phone me in 30 seconds and say it's an emergency, right?
Anyways, sometimes it
Customer
won't work.
service is a fine art. It really is, right?
It is.
It is, right? So, but what's your purpose?
Purpose.
When it comes to time management, what's the purpose? What do you want to get out of it? You schedule your day. This is what I want to achieve. But why? What do you want to get out of that, right? What's the point of having a schedule? What's the point of setting a list of things to do?
Well, for me, that's easy. There's 2 things. I want to be able to dedicate some time to further expansion, and then I want to dedicate some time to my family. Those are 2 reasons why I try to be efficient. If I was a bachelor, and I was going to be a lifelong bachelor, I would probably operate completely different.
Yeah. So you need to know that before you commit your time to doing something or not doing something. Understand what your purpose is. Because otherwise, if you don't understand your purpose, the next day when you're looking at that same thing and you're looking at the list, you're gonna chase non-productive things because it's meaningless, right? So one thing I like to do, and I know this again, is spending time, but I'll do a thing and then I'll think about how I did that thing. You know, did I really accomplish what it was I set out to do with this? Or the next time I do this, do I need to plan this better? Or did I nail it, or am I learning something from this thing, right? So the next time I come and do it, instead of taking 3 minutes and 37 seconds, because of what I learned here this day, I can do this now in 2 minutes and 15 seconds, kind of thing, right? Or whatever the time frame is, right? Take a few moments, reflect on what it was you actually accomplished. Does it matter? Did it serve the purpose? Or am I, as Chad had previously mentioned, am I just busy for the sake of being busy and just wandering around here?
Yeah.
Again, love of the land and some time, what time well wasted is always a benefit, but there's got to be some value realized out of it at the end of it, right? You need another splash there? It looks like
I'll take a bit.
It's getting warm.
We'll do this. Chad chimed in again. I think I seen one blowing by on you there. This same one. So I run too hot for customer service. Unfortunately, I do too. But after a few years, I had to get better at it if I was going to stick with what I was doing. I do like to visit, but when there is stuff to do, it's got to get done then on to the next task. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I guess people, I don't know, they have different ideas of how they're going to spend their day or whatever. And then that's the unfortunate thing too. Like Stan, you know, he likes to get up at 5. I don't. I would actually rather work into the night, to be told. And I don't really like working at night, but I'm better in the evening. Like I feel more productive in the evening than than I, you know, and that's why I mean I don't mind getting up at 7 and taking an hour for breakfast till 8, reading the newspaper, doing whatever, filling out some tags that need to be made for the day, and actually starting the day at 9. Fortunately for me, I don't have to work off the farm. I realize that plays a whole different thing into it when you're doing this, but you know, I can start at 9, and oftentimes, you know, especially when we didn't live at the farm, I never ate lunch. It never really bothered me.
No way.
Right? So even on a rig, I never, until I started drilling, you know, it's just whatever. Like it didn't matter how physical the day was either. I just didn't bother me to eat. So I can start at 9 and work right 6 or 7, 8, 9, and then call it good.
Never, hey?
You know, just stop really for nothing.
I've worked with guys like that. Yeah, they'll eat a big breakfast in the morning, and they won't touch another morsel of food until 6 or 7 at night. And I don't know. Some days I can run on diesel, and other days I'm running on fumes. I gotta put something in the tank. What are you doing there?
It slipped. It's ice.
Better suck the tablecloth out there.
Ice is slippery also.
Slippery
Yes,
ice.
you
Who
don't
would
know.
have thought, hey?
His side's always so
Need to
clean,
get
and my
some
side is just a
Ice
disaster.
fishing glove. That's why I had to go to the thrift store and get a new ashtray. I usually
Because
have
of me.
my old man's ashtray, but I knew we were gonna get these big honking cigars. I needed more capacity, I guess, but anyways, what you were just mentioning, it kind of gets me down to my next point is getting enough downtime, getting enough rest. You know, we're gonna agree to disagree on what's the best time of day to actually get up in the day and do our work, because what works for us is different, right? But if you think about like, do you ever sleep into harvest time?
Oh, yeah, when it rains. When it rained the night
When it
before.
rains?
Yeah.
Right?
Other than that,
Okay, so you're not getting your combine at 6 o'clock in the morning, are you?
no.
No, because it's gonna be too tough. It's not.
Yeah,
gonna-
it doesn't
right?
go till the
Doesn't
afternoon.
make sense. right?
However, there's a lot to do though in the
But
morning.
there's still
Is
stuff
why
to
you
do.
don't.
But sometimes sleeping in at harvest time or haying time or whatever time you should probably be in the tractor, greasing, maintaining stuff or whatever. It can seem a little bit counterproductive, but there's literally thousands of studies out there that have proven that lack of sleep costs the workforce hundreds of billions of dollars annually, right? You're not at your best when you're sleep deprived. Farmers are renowned for this because there's usually a half a dozen times a year where it's just, you just start and then you don't stop until it's done,
Yeah.
right? Seeding, haying, harvest, tilling, you know, all of these little things that happen throughout, usually, you know, a month or two in between kind of thing, right? So when that happens and you're sleep deprived, you're generally less than mediocre at best.
Oh, for sure.
You're pushing yourself, but I mean, there's this centuries old tradition that the earlier you get out of bed, the more productive you're gonna be. But we talked about this during a couple of different lives. We talked about this during passive income, and we talked about this during, what was our last one we just did there? We literally just did this 2 weeks ago.
I was gonna grab my phone and go back, but it's up there.
Anyways, we've talked about the time equals money or does it, right? So if you're a wage worker, time equals money, right? But time doesn't equal productivity, right? And it doesn't, in the farming industry, time doesn't equal payday, right? Results, productivity equals payday, not necessarily time. Time by itself isn't money unless you're actually getting paid just to be there, right? So if you're running at 60% productivity for 12 hours because you're like literally bagged from being in the tractor for so long, or working 10 hours at 85%, what's gonna be better, right? So sometimes taking off a little hour earlier or starting an hour later at harvest and getting that little bit of extra sleep and going harder for an extra day, when something breaks down, because it's gonna break down, your mind's not frazzled, you're not sitting there for 3 hours going back and forth to the toolbox, to whatever it is you're working on, not achieving anything. You're probably gonna be better focused and be able to fix that thing. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
And be back in the field and make better use of your time, right? Or whether it's the field or whether it's something else, right? So for as much as we like to think, or maybe it's perceived that life on the farm is relaxing and every day's a holiday and we don't have to work a day in our life because we're doing what we love. Doesn't mean we don't need to also step away occasionally, right? So you just took a couple days away in Edmonton, right?
I did
A bit
so.
of family time, right? Super necessary. We do it usually once in the summertime. We'll take off for a few days. We'll try and plan meat chickens through, 9 to 10 weeks, and then we butcher chickens, and then we go away for a few days, right? And that short reset can make you exponentially more productive, right? Like, believe it or not, you can actually get somebody else, a friend, a family member, a coworker, to literally come by and feed your animals or whatever it is you gotta do, your ducks or whatever, for a few days. It's not
Yeah.
that hard. It's for as hard as we think it is, for as anally retentive as we probably are about our own routine. It's usually pretty easy. Make a list for somebody and they come by twice a day and they check on your goats or whatever it is, and you come back, you're well rested, you're refreshed. You can probably grumble for a few days, because they didn't do things the way you want them to be done, but nothing's dead,
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when we left, my parents were going to stay there because we thought we might have some people stop by from molasses or whatever. So they stayed right out there, and I got everything ready because it's super icy around here. And my parents aren't spring chickens anymore.
Don't want anybody to fall and break a
I didn't
hip,
want them
right?
to have to do anything more than necessary, right? And when
Yeah.
I left, I thought, like, the way I left that, why is that not just the way I operate? Like that.
That's a really good point.
That
yeah.
is so efficient, because I know the pigs don't need to be fed for 4 or 5 days now. Of course you got to get eggs every day, especially if it's going to get cold, or you may as well just whatever. That's not going to work, right? Because our chicken coop's not insulated, so that'll be froze. But so there was literally like almost nothing to do.
Why do you have chickens?
I don't.
Just
know.
for your own eggs?
Yeah, for our own.
So what do
Wife
you
wanted
care
chickens.
if they freeze?
Well, I think that if you're going to do something, you should do it as good as possible.
I seen a thing the other we're talking about TikToks and social media or whatever, but I did see this meme. I had to laugh. It was like, Dad of the Year spends $3,000 to build this fancy chicken house so he can get 16-cent eggs for free.
Yeah.
Lots of us do that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I want eggs, and I want to farm fresh eggs, but
Well, there's a lot more to it, right? It's good for the kids. I mean, we lived in town my whole life. I never had chickens or animals or anything, right? So it's good for the kids. It's a terrible sin. That's why we bought those steers this summer, because that was actually set up to be a backgrounding area for cattle. It's got underground waters. Underground water. It was set up for that. So what a terrible sin to just let that sit.
and do nothing, be
Right.
non-productive.
So
Yeah.
I mean, we got
That
the
would be
pigs, we
wasteful,
got the
yeah.
chickens, we got
Just gonna check.
all of this stuff. And if you're gonna have it, you have to be responsible enough.
Alberta Boy 74 says personal pride has destroyed many relationships. Absolutely it has.
Do you have
Absolutely
another
it
one?
has. Yeah, there's pride.
North Sass guy, hello.
There's pride that's useful and pride that's very damaging, right? So it depends on how you execute it.
And I guess we got the elimination by automation
Well, we
done,
didn't really dive into
80/20.
that. I mean, we kind of mentioned like an automatic waterer, but I mean, you've got stuff in your grain bins that blows my mind.
Yeah, that's actually, I guess that is elimination by automation. So even for monitoring our grain bins, before we put those sensors in there, we used to climb up every one and have about a 30-foot steel rod, and you just pull that out, run it through your hand.
Feel for a warm spot.
Yeah, it's hot, and now you start the process. So that's taking a ladder from every bin, climbing up, So
So not only time, but physical
yeah,
exertion.
risking your life, icy, everything. Now it takes basically probably a minute a bin, and anybody can do it, right?
What'd
Life
that
takes
cost
kids
you?
up there.
What'd that cost you for a bin?
I think between about $400 and $600 a bin, and then the monitor itself is $1,000.
So if you fell on the ice and had to take 4 weeks of downtime, that
Oh,
right
for
there,
sure.
that right there is paid for itself. And that's what a lot of people, they don't calculate risk in terms of cost.
But the
Because it's
real
less
one is
time.
if you have a 10,000 bushel bin full of canola,
And you overheat that.
that is
How many thousands of
that
dollars
is
is that?
that's worth $220,000.
That's paid.
If it goes down to even heated canola actually is is quite valuable. So I mean, say you cut that in half or go to $10, you just lost yourself $100,000. It's so,
Unfathomable,
you
right?
can't,
The
you
thing-
can't, you can't be at that. Even the small bins, we used to think like, well, we'll only do our 2,000 bushel bins and bigger. Okay, so that makes sense. So we'll put 1,300 bushels of canola in a bin at $20.
Yeah,
That's 26,000. That's still worth more than all the cables for all the bins.
100%, right?
And now you don't have to climb up on the stupid thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, for us, we're way small scale, right? Like we're hobby farmers. That's my people, right? That's we because we're working and we're still trying to manage the farm. But if we talk to my brother-in-law, he's an accountant, and he would say, no, you're a hobby farmer, mostly because our income versus our expenditure is
yeah.
we're our little tax shelter we have here, and he just kind of raises an eyebrow every time we bring him receipts. But like, how can we automate something at a simplistic level? Well, if we got 50 chickens out in the chicken house for our laying hens, and I gotta pack water to them in a vacuum style water every day. Now, they're not gonna drink 3 or 4 gallons of water every day, but the cat will go over there and drink water, the dog will go over there and drink water. They need water too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know why they gravitate towards that water all the time. So I went to PV Mart and I bought this 5-gallon bucket with a float in it, attaches to a garden hose, and I literally will set it out there May long weekend. It's gonna stay there until Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I attach to a garden hose, and I don't have to pack water for 6 months. And you think about 6 months, how many, like, that's what is 185 days, 5 minutes times 100, well, probably more than 5 minutes by the time you
You know, fill the bucket,
fill the bucket,
spill the
go both
bucket
ways and-
every
yeah,
third day.
all that, right? Over 185 days, that's a lot of family time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for 30, I think $34, $34.99, I think I bought that for, right? So little things can actually have a big impact if you measure them and you weigh them over an extended period of time. Now that bucket's probably gonna last me for 10 years, right? So back at the back of the shop here, we don't have water back there, but I got power back there. I run the eaves trough down off the roof. Largely I get all the water comes off the shop. That supplies the water for the sheep. I don't have to touch that,
Yeah.
right? But if I had to pack pails of water there every day, oh my God, I'd break my back, probably slip and fall.
But and those are good points too, because I had a thing here. A lady told me the other day, and this whole elimination by automation, it does not have to take all of the profit out of the farm to
No.
eliminate by automate. Like you say, you can, instead of hiring a trencher to trench the water and trench the power and put a waterer there, you can go through the motions when you need to pack water and set up something. And this lady, she said, like, how can anybody get into farming? A new combine's worth over $1 million. And I actually stopped
Who
her.
would buy a new combine?
I said, hold on a minute. We farm basically 2,500 acres. We have 2 combines with 2 straight cut headers and 2 pickup headers. Both of those combines and all 4 of those headers together on a good day wouldn't be worth $130,000.
10% to what brand new cost is.
So we
5%.
we have to be careful though when we do this. Like, well, I mean, I can't afford to get the newest. Well, like, really not. You're in a very specific part of ag when this can roll off your back. Like you're multi-generation, super successful, ultra high yielding area. Things have gone well for a long time before you get to this stage. There are
Before you're-
people there. Congratulations, that's awesome. I watch some of them on YouTube. It's amazing what they do. That's that is the 1%. Everyone's mad at the 1%. That's the 1%
Yeah,
that are
they're
doing
the guys that chase the railroad into the West Country.
But when we sit back and we think like, well, I mean, if only I could do this, it'd be easier. But it's, well, you can, maybe you can. Maybe you can automate slightly more efficiently, I mean, for those guys, in fact, it is efficient. If you were to look at them, they'd be like, no, this is efficient. We're doing 100,000 acres. We
100%.
need, we can't have 45 $80,000 combines. We need 9
You need
$1 million combines. Right? This is the only way this works.
Yeah.
And probably in a cost ratio thing, it's probably works.
Yeah, well, you
You
think
know?
about even just the fuel bill for all those machines,
Oh,
right? Like if you're gonna run 5 more combines,
Yeah. Actually, never really thought of that.
the diesel fuel alone is gonna start making payments for
Yep.
one larger one, right? So, time management plays in with money management as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do we have for time? 82 minutes. What does that work out to be? An hour?
Is it 82?
Hour and 20 minutes. You're probably like 100 and some minutes because we had 15
Oh, you
minutes
switched over. I got
fart around
99.
time at the beginning, right? Because
I was just looking at it thinking, like, how are we not even at
I
an
thought
hour?
I had this figured with the laptop. I thought that was going to be
I should check it back
drag
here.
this thing out of the bush and it was going to be the answer, but evidently not. I think next time I am going to try it with my wife's computer. It's about 5 years newer than this one, so
The old ThinkPad.
it's still pretty old, but it'd be a lot better. But I'm down to the final third of the cigar here, and I'm definitely so cigar. When you're smoking cigars, they go in thirds, right? Your first third, your second third, your final third, and yeah, and the flavor profile definitely changes as you work your way through the cigar. I think I could probably reconcile myself to think I'm picking up hints of coffee now.
Well, I know that my lips are burning and my teeth feel cold, so I think I'm
I don't know what you're smoking.
to the point where it's probably time to get a different.
You're getting down to the band. I think it's time
Is
to.
this glue?
It's just yeah. I don't know.
Is this glue at this point? So, but I got better. I don't
got
tap it anymore. I just give it the roll.
You just
right?
got to roll the ash
I
off.
give it the roll. I don't
Yeah, you
want
don't
to get
want
old
to displace any of the filler, right?
Tony Soprano getting mad here if he's tuning in.
But yeah, this Pendleton's rye, that is very, very good, flavorful stuff. I'm really thankful that Jeremy gave us that bottle. That was
Yeah, that is very
not even,
appreciated.
well, we're a quarter of the way in. We're not quite a third of the way in.
No.
We'll get a couple of shows out of that one.
Well, did you put a bunch of apple juice in that Appleton Estates one or what? I thought it
No,
was
this
over.
this is as far as we made it before you turned into a train wreck there.
That was tough.
You thought we were further in than that, hey?
I thought it was gone.
Yeah.
I was gone.
And I think we got about a quarter of the Glenfiddich left, and
We had some of that one.
one day we'll have to tie into this.
We tried that one.
We did try it, yeah. This is the Laphroaig. This is from the Isle of Islay. It's a 10-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. This is what Prince Charles drinks. And it's kind of an interesting whiskey. It's a Scotch whiskey. When you buy a bottle of this, it comes with a little card that entitles you to a lifetime lease on a 1 foot by 1 foot square plot of land on the Isle of Islay. And so if you buy a bottle of this and you ever find yourself in Scotland, you can take a boat to the island, present them with this card, and they'll actually give you a free glass of whiskey.
I thought that was our plan on live stream number 2, eh? We're gonna do a live stream from England.
From Scotland?
We gotta go get those bikes and talk to the lady that sent you off. So I had one here. Who's this? Time management is huge. I farm 750 acres myself. Need to have everything planned out as much as possible, so when things do go wrong, it isn't as bad. Yeah, and actually, my dad was saying too. So he'll be 70 years old, and like he said, these current times, it's always funny, like when old people are like, oh, we've seen this before. When it comes to weather, when it comes to like he was saying, nobody's seen what we're gonna come into. Well, you talk about the supply chain a lot, like not getting things. We actually had a air drill. It's listed. I think it's still listed. Thought about selling it. I think I might just keep it.
I think there's people that are alive today, still alive today, that have probably seen the things that we're experiencing in this current era, this current age. But what's unique about where we are is we've never, or definitely the people that are alive today, have never seen them happen as condensed a time frame as what we're seeing it.
Well, he did say that too.
Right? So yeah, they've seen through, horrific weather, cyclical patterns. Yeah, they've seen supply chain shortages. Yeah, they've seen warfare. They've seen political unrest. They've seen all these things, but this has now become a constant in our society.
Yeah.
Right? This is, we talk about
The new norm.
The new normal, yeah. The new normal is messed up. And, I kind of, for as much as I talk about preparation, I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what next year is going to look like. All I know is plant your potatoes, get your garlic in the ground, learn some old skills.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can see tribulation coming. If you think about this, the plagues of Egypt were, I don't know what's next, but I mean, short of the rivers running red with blood, I don't know what more we can do here, but, without strapping on a tinfoil hat and really getting into it, but yeah, I think, time management's only a piece of that, right? If we're off looking at butterflies and ignoring what's happening in the real world, you know, for years and years, I didn't watch the news because it wasn't a good use of my time, and
Yeah.
it was probably just white noise in the background, and it was all just BS. But here in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've been paying some pretty close attention to what's happening in the political world, and what's unfolding on a global scale, not just here at home. Here at home, it was pretty bad for some obvious reasons. But on the global scale, are we going to go into World War III? Like, what do you think here? My wife's asking me about this, and I'm saying, I mean, tensions are pretty high if NATO gets involved. I mean, it's going to be a war of the buttons, right? Who's got their hand on the button?
Yeah,
Because
well,
if the U.S. gets involved, well, they've got a lot of firepower. Russia's got firepower that we don't even know about. Some of those Eastern European countries, they've got some stuff that's left over from the Cold War. And just not very far from them, there's some folks that are very, very volatile in the Middle East. If they get involved, it could be quite the mess, right?
I seen the other day that, well, you had told me this a while ago when I asked you what you thought was gonna be the next, the next 6 months plan. And yeah, it looks like China and Taiwan are gonna get involved. I've seen
China's
that.
going to take Taiwan. That's going to be China's going to expand its territory. Russia's going to expand its territory.
Well, they were taking plans. I seen
The U.S., for as much as I say, well, you know, are they going to get involved? The U.S. right now has never been more impotent in their country's history. Not since the War of 1812, when we burned the White House down. Right. So,
yeah.
you know, they are not in a good global position right now because they're literally, I mean, and a lot of the Western world is like this. They're literally bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right, Canada owes, $2.2 trillion of government debt. We think about where our economy goes if the stock market crashes. When the stock market crashed in 2008 was the last big one I can remember. There was, billions and billions of dollars of government bailouts.
Yeah.
That helped stimulate that economy. We've just gone through 2.5 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has basically depleted all of the bins. Like there's no grain left in the bins. There's no reserve, right? We're running on less than the reserve tank. We're just literally running on rainbows right now. So if the stock market tanks right now as a result of some type of global conflict, there's no bailout package coming.
Yeah,
So plant your potatoes. Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll be happy to be wrong. But if I'm right, hold on.
Yeah.
Make sure your freezer's full. And I mean, they say tomorrow morning, expect the price of gas to go through the roof. There's people yesterday at Costco, 10, 15 cars deep lining up to try and get fuel.
Yeah.
If we go to war, expect a fuel shortage.
Actually, Chad had mentioned that on a video I did yesterday, that he was going to fill up his farm tank, and I mean the fuel truck comes to our place all the time, because I got the tractors running all year long, but yeah, I mean and he actually just made a comment there. This thing is getting me. He keeps like duplicate pieces of equipment, and yeah, we do too. We had some farmers ask us once, like, well, why don't you guys get in a situation to just get one new combine, right? I mean, you don't have enough people, and they're right. I mean, if my dad's drying grain and my mom's combining and Corey's looking after the kids, making lunch and helping me with the trucks, there actually isn't. But what if it breaks down, right?
Sometimes it's good to have a parts machine. Sometimes it's good to have a spare in the shack. Right?
My dad laughed. He said, because we were talking about Taiwan too, and he said, like, the last thing he took apart, because microchips or computer chips, circuit boards in vehicles, right? There was a big delay building cars, couldn't get chips. Like, they come from Taiwan.
There's literally, in the U.S. right now, there is fields full of brand new pickup trucks, ATVs, boats, all this stuff sitting there.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of them waiting for microchips. Can't get them in.
Yeah, it's gonna be. See, that's the thing when you get like in the ag business here. No matter what you're doing, if you're homesteading, if you're farming, if you're whatever, it's all time. Like you can't plant your potatoes today,
No,
right? So
I gotta wait till May long weekend.
right, if you can't get them, if you can't get the if you can't get the tools, regardless of what you need from say a garden hoe to a seed drill,
Yeah,
you don't get another shot. Like this year is missed, and now what do? Like you say we just out of a drought. I had a guy at the farm today, and he looked around. He said, "Why do you guys have so much grain?" And I said, "Well, we actually made this conscious decision at the start of the fall here that we weren't going to market our barley
yeah,
any other way." This kind of a socialist view, taboo, but I think the provincial and the federal government actually should have done more to ensure the Canadian product stayed in Canada.
100%.
We exported record numbers or record amounts of grain right off the combine, and it left the country.
Zero foresight there.
Now you're looking on those Facebook pages. We need people. They're exhausted. And there isn't any. I seen hay sell at an auction for $320 a ton.
Yeah.
Like $260 a bale.
Yeah,
And because there virtually is none. The grain is, there's a few guys with some grain bins full, but
so what does that mean for this year, when you come into, April, May, or when you're seeding, what does that mean to the farmer that's gotta put seed in the ground? Is there seed available?
I think the canola seed was available. Up here in the Peace specifically, I think there will be seed available. It's very expensive, like tremendous. When the grain all jumped for the commercial version of the grain, the seed is double that yet usually. It's half again as much.
Yeah, yeah,
So when you see malt barley trading for $11 a bushel, your seed is going to be like 20.
25, yeah.
Fortunately for us, we grow varieties you can keep, except for the canola you can't keep. So we have our own peas, we have our own wheat, we have our own barley and our own oats. So we'll have lots. Fertilizer is a big one.
So if I do the math on that, just off the top of my head, what I'm seeing from that is that by September of 2022, you can expect a $10 loaf of bread.
Yeah, well, I did a whole video on what did I call it? Beer, bread, and the cost of food or whatever.
Yeah.
There's very little wheat in a loaf of bread.
No, there's not.
Right? Like I used used bread as that, and I can't remember what it was, but for instance, I remember the pea one. So the most we ever got for peas was like $14 a bushel. When you buy peas at Bulk Barn, it's like I thought it was maybe $4 a pound or something, which is like
Crazy markup,
$60
right?
a bushel.
Yeah.
Right? So we grow them, we combine them, we load them in a container, we send them to China. They wash them, sprinkle some salt on them, boil them or bake them in a huge oven, put them in a cardboard barrel, and ship them back to Bulk Barn and sell them back to us for $289 a bushel.
I'm not even mad at the Chinese for that.
Absolutely not. If you're a
Good.
capitalist and a free market guy, you got to just look at this whole situation and be. Actually, I tried to get a cookie sheet and bake them myself because they're snack food, right? Human consumption, and it worked out very well.
Yeah.
Kudos to them. A big thumbs down to the Canadian government, to basically the Canadian capitalist at large for not doing this locally or at least in our own country domestically. But people aren't requiring it or whatever.
You
They're
don't-
asking for
You
it.
don't have to be a nationalist to do the math on that.
No,
right?
no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shouldn't. I read an article too, and they're like, "Oh, the groceries are going to go up because the cost of the grain is going up." And was it the first or second live stream we did? We were talking about cattle. The
Yeah.
cattle producer is not
Consumer impact on livestock, the economy, and the environment. That was another one we did. Yeah.
the cattle producer is not seeing $20 a pound.
No.
He's still getting $2.50.
Yeah.
So when these prices skyrocket the way they do, it's just greed. That's all it is. It's just greed,
Yeah.
because they're already making so much money at $2.50 a pound that they can they can absorb this, and they don't.
So, okay, well, let's have this conversation. We see where the market's going. We see where cash is going. We go into a global conflict. stock market's sitting there basically boiling under the surface,
This
ready-
always happens. We
ready
have
to-
more people now than
ready to plummet. Yeah, it sucks. They'll have to tune in tomorrow morning and catch the whole thing, because they missed probably quite a bit of it. So the market crashes, you know, so there's a lot of fear right now as to whether or not people should pull out of the stock market. If people do en masse pull out of the stock market, that inevitably will probably cause it to fail. But then they turn that into cash, and the cash goes in the bank. If the economy fails behind it and the government has no reserves to back that money, what are we doing right now? If we look at the Canadian government, well, even the US government, there's been more money printed in the last year than has ever been printed collectively in the history of both of those nations.
Yeah.
So the value, the face value of that money is basically less than the paper it's printed
Yep.
on, right? So if you bring out your stock out of the market and you convert it into cash, you just have a large pile of paper in your briefcase.
Yeah.
You better think about turning that thing into something that's either gonna hold its value, or is you can liquefy it, liquidate it and turn it into something that you can utilize, right? So I said this on our community page the other day, like, if you're gonna cash out, you better put that money right back into something, and land would probably be the best option, because you can't print more land,
No.
right? And yeah, the price of land is probably at an all-time high, but
It ain't cheap.
I, in my lifetime, I don't know if I've ever seen the price of land. I've seen the housing market decline.
Yeah.
I've never really seen the price of land go down.
It's funny. So my dad, he told me this in the, I forget what year it was, back in the 80s. Some farmers lost their land, and what happened was they were all leveraged like we are now. And when they assessed the land value, they assessed it at less than they owed, and they just took it,
Yeah,
right? And I had a guy. We were talking about remortgaging things before. Interest rates are going up March, right? The
Right
Bank
away.
of Canada said that's going to happen.
yeah. no
So
secret
he was
there.
saying he was trying to get his papers in, so he was going to try to get a couple quarters of land, I think, or properties he had anyways, try to get them locked in at these, say, a 5-year mortgage rate cheaper. And he actually, it was shocking what he said. He said they've actually assessed the land at less than I paid for it. And I just thought, like, whoa, red flag. Like the old boy said, this happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
When people lost their farms, Farm Credit took them back.
The banks are doing that specific, yeah, there's targeted reasoning behind that. Not because the land is valued at less, but the bank knows if you default on those payments, they're gonna have to incur cost, obviously, sit on it for an extended period of time, and they're gonna have nothing to back that land, right, other than sitting on the land itself, right? So they don't wanna be equity holders, they wanna be able to have money, utilize that money, make money off of the money. The land itself is of very little value to the bank.
Chad says
some
farming is
comments in
time
here?
sensitive, a lot of money made and lost on timing. Absolutely. Truckloads of hay crossed the border that should have stayed here. Absolutely. That bothered me a lot. And I knew from the business that I'm in with selling the grain, there was a ton of brokers come up from Montana,
Yeah.
come up from Nebraska, they bought her all, everything they could sell. I was talking to a guy from Port St. John. They wouldn't even sell to their neighbors. They sold to the brokers, and it all left. I don't
Is
even
that
think it
right,
made
eh?
it to the interior in BC. It all went south. And you know what? Absolutely. If we can help our neighbors to the south, to the east, to the north, to the west, we should be doing that. But you know what? Your family, your community, your circle has to reflect what you can do.
100%.
If you cannot help a circle this big, you shouldn't expand it to this.
No.
Because that's not going to help anybody, right? Everyone's going to end up with
almost
less.
part of living within your means. Sarah Feds here said, my husband and I work together. I'm not sure if that's Kevin's wife. My husband and I work together and play to our strengths. So I think that's probably in relation to the time management conversation we're having. And that's super important, right? Like, not all the time can you go out there and tag team everything, right? Like, you probably see this, Corey's good at some stuff and you're good at other stuff, right? It's the same for Carmen and myself, and it's not about having pink jobs and blue jobs, but, you know, she has a certain skill set, I have a certain skill set, and sometimes that's what you have to do, right? Is you do what you're good at, and I'll do what I'm good at, and then there's things that collectively that we need each other to work on, and we tag team that stuff, but not everything's a team sport, right?
No.
Right. But
And
collectively, it serves the team. Right?
Landlust Acres here says,
That's Kevin, isn't it? Landless
I believe
Acres?
it is Kevin.
It is. I just subscribed to him on YouTube actually yesterday. He did a video on deworming sheep. I thought that was very well put
That's the
together.
one. Yeah, I watched that
Yeah.
one yesterday too.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you haven't watched that, this is a little plug for Kevin here. If you haven't watched that, Landless Acres, go subscribe to that on YouTube. Got a handful of videos out.
Oh, yeah, he says that's him. Yeah, it is. Well, I was looking at a bag because we reuse bags, and you are allowed to. I don't know. I've been reading through the Facebook pages, and people are like, oh, certain places won't let you take bags back. They're not allowed to. No, you were allowed to. We were inspected by the CFI. That's the Canadian
highest
Food
authority in
Inspection
the land.
Agency. That's not Alberta.
Yeah.
That's Canada.
Yeah.
You have to have a procedure, and I don't discredit the people that don't want to take bags back. It's hard. It's a lot of work. The reason why we can do it is because we are a very small cottage industry. We're family run. We don't have employees. I can go through the bags. If they're not up to standard, I can dispose of them.
A lot tighter control
Right?
on the system.
I make everything myself. I know exactly what goes into it, so I can do it. It's frustrating at times, but it
Yeah,
can be
you're
done.
not like a feed.
So, anyways, yeah,
monster.
I see the landless bag, and I was like, where did this come from?
Yeah,
And then I watched Kevin's. I was like, oh, it's Kevin's bag.
there you go.
But
Yeah.
he said the land was 30 grand. Where he come from? I think he come from out east.
Land was 30 grand.
Yeah,
For how much?
he said an acre.
Well, I believe that because I grew up in the UK, and I remember when I went over there in 2017, I was talking to Master John about this place. We just bought this place, and I mean it's no secret we spent, I think it was 290 grand for the quarter section here, and told him like, well, what does that look like? How many acres is in a quarter section? Because they don't have quarter sections there.
Yeah.
In England, it's done by hides,
Okay.
hides or acres, right?
Okay.
And a hide is like 5 acres, right? But he said the land there was like $50,000 an acre. You know, and so we think it's hard to get into farming here,
Oh, yeah.
right? But I mean, we also talk about multi-generational farming here, and like my grandparents came over, well, on my maternal grandfather's side came over from Sweden in the, 1915, somewhere around that, right? So we're looking at 4 generations. That's as deep as that goes. But then I look at the family in the UK, and I mean, we can go back to like 1085, right? So just shy of 1,000 years of farming generations in northern England,
Wow.
right? So when you think about inherited land and all the benefits of that and productivity in the land, and I mean, we can't even compare here. We're still trying to break raw land.
Yeah.
Whereas there's literally not a square inch of land that hasn't been exploited in some way. In fact, there's initiatives there now to actually they call it rewilding.
Okay.
So they're taking actual developed farmland and then converting it back to forested land because there just isn't any, right?
Oh.
It's not that there isn't any, but it's uncommon, right? So it's kind of neat to see that, but that's why I mean there's how many millions of people there, and there's like, I think there is like 35 or 40 million people in the UK. And we have that many people in Canada.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's
right.
a country that's or United Kingdom is the size of Alberta, right? And they've got that many people in that. Could you imagine if we had 35 million people in Alberta? What that would look like? We'd be tripping on each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think my neighbors are too close at like a mile away.
I'm pretty happy. Like my neighbor's just across the road, but I mean, I'm not very good at throwing, but I could throw a rock and I wouldn't hit them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas think about there, and it's literally stacked 3 deep on top of each other, right? So, yeah. One last swig.
One last swig. One last thing for the glasses. If there's anybody
There you go.
that didn't know about these, Stan and I got these made. We're gonna give a set away
Custom.
every live stream. Jeremy won the last set last time. So all you gotta do to qualify for these is leave a comment.
Drop us a comment in the comment section. Be subscribed to Bloom Family Farm, right? It's the name of your channel.
Yeah.
Kirkfell Farm. And you'll be entered into the draw. And we'll ship you a beautiful set of these whiskey glasses. You'll see they're a little bit different. These were the original set that were done.
These will be in the Hall of Fame one
But
day.
these are,
They'll
will be.
never make it on
Yeah, when we
anybody
get
else's
our-
shelf.
When we get our deal on HGTV,
Absolutely, yeah, that's probably coming right up.
yeah.
Some of
I
those,
did-
some of those
I
calls
did-
that I silence, I wonder, I'm like, that was probably important.
That's probably it.
Right,
yeah.
that was probably it.
That's
And now I'm never
opportunity
gonna get it
knocking right
again,
there, yeah.
so.
Yeah, all those 1-800 numbers are.
Just text me if, just text me and I'll get
Yeah.
back to you.
You could always send, do you have your email? Is your email public?
It can be.
I mean, if anybody wants like to do an endorsement deal or send us anything that we want
I think it's on there.
to feature anything in our videos, you can send it to, what are you?
Mine's
Enterprises@yahoo.com,
.ca,
.ca,
yeah.
or kirkfellfarm@gmail.com. And we'll happily reply to any comments you got if anybody wants to do any kind of video endorsement deals or anything like that. If the folks at HGTV
I
are
can just
watching.
imagine that they probably are. They're probably, oh, cow, I missed it.
You missed a whole slew
No, I
there.
don't know about a whole slew. In Ontario, you need to have X amount of acres per livestock unit to get rid of the manure. Large dairy farms and chicken farms bid everyone else out. That is something that isn't that Ontario farmer. He just, yeah, he would know all about it. Watching from Northern Ontario, welcome.
You know, that's one thing I'd like to do a video on. Maybe it's worthwhile doing a live on manure management and soil health. Because to me, so we've talked about this during previous, not live streams, but just videos around the farm about soil health and how there's numerous studies out there saying that North America, that the soil health is depleted so much that we have 60 years of topsoil left until basically we can't even grow crops, right? And then we're looking at a population growth of we're like 7.8 billion or 7.9 billion people now, and by 2050 we're going to be like 10 billion people, and we're somehow going to have to feed them. The only way to do that is through mass deforestation, and so that's just fantastic for the environment, right? But the other side of this is you look at areas like in California and in like these areas that are like heavy feedlots. They're right beside places that grow all the romaine lettuce and the E. coli risk that we see coming out of there.
Yeah.
And manure management is a huge thing, but also in terms of growing, like we're not growing, but rejuvenating soil and how you do that. And so manure management and development of compost and layering that on top of your soil, feeding the soil, because soil doesn't just need nitrogen, potassium, what's the other one?
NPK,
Nitrogen, potassium, and
phosphorus.
phosphorus, right? There's more to the equation than that, right? There's a lot of actual microbiology that exists within soil that creates, that generates soil health. And so if we're not returning back to the soil all of that organic matter, the microbiology within the soil can't survive. So all this inorganic fertilizer, I mean, you probably have to spread, I don't know how much of it just to get your crops to grow,
Yeah,
right?
I was just doing some more research on that today.
And that is the reality of modern farming in terms of trying to be economical. But if we're doing that, we're not actually feeding the microbiology in the soil. That's what causes a depletion of topsoil. That's what contributes to water erosion, wind erosion, soil thinning, the heavy tillage and what that does to soil structure, and destruction of the mycorrhizal network within the soil. Mycorrhizal network is a function of the fungus that exists. We see a mushroom pop up, and it's yay big. That's what you see pop up out of the soil. But underneath the soil, there's that single mushroom has like 50,000 miles of network inside the soil that connects it and acts. There's a thing called Metcalfe's law. It talks about
I looked that up.
the number of nodes within the network. It defines the strength of the network. That's how mycorrhizal fungi works, because it links all of your entire field together and can pull nutrients from way on the other side of the field to feed a plant way over here, and does the same with nutrients. And then when it's absorbing sunlight and pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, it's then feeding that back, that whole network, and increasing your soil health. So heavy tillage, inorganic chemicals such as pesticides, herbicides.
So you're saying I'm just the evil?
Non-organic fertilizers. I'm not saying you're evil. I'm just saying that this is the current situation where companies like Monsanto have led us out of the necessity to feed
Yeah.
8 billion people, right, without trying to destroy the Amazon rainforest. This is where we're at, so.
Well, it's funny you bring all that up. I was just reading an article today, and I forgot it was Libkriegs or something. It was in like the 1800s. They come up with this thing, and I seen it with the molasses, right? When they talk about animal health, if an animal's deficient in anything, until you get that up, nothing will work,
Yep.
right? And there's quite and what they did so with because nitrogen. When you're growing crops, you need nitrogen. And they said, well, hold on a minute. That's only going to get you so far, and this was in regards to canola yield. So they and it's so cool. We should incorporate this into our next live stream. It's a barrel, and every slat has something on it like nitrogen, phos, right? And the lowest slat is where the yield pours out.
Yeah.
So unless you that up, it won't. Nothing you can do is really going to benefit you that much. So when my wife actually took over planning our fertilizer blends, because my old man was like, oh, we're short of phos, until you get the phos up, nothing's going to work. But and we've done some soil samples in the past, and I gotta say, undeniably, we've grown better crops by changing that fertilizer blend, which was, something my dad was never interested in.
Yeah.
Oh, more phos, just put more phos down, we're too phos
Yeah, I
deficient.
mean, if you're gonna listen
Well,
to
we
that-
were just more, maybe we weren't that year phos deficient. Maybe we had built it up over 5 years.
Yeah.
And we growing shittier yielding crops and peas and stuff like that. All of a sudden, maybe we weren't. And then we couldn't get these yields. I mean, last year, actually, with the drought was one of the best years we've ever had. And I kind of was thinking more about this when I watched your videos about doing different land prep and stuff like that. And then changing the fertilizer blend, I thought like, wow, maybe that's it, right? Maybe just this whole old school mainstream. Oh, just maybe it is time for a bit of a change.
Let me ask you this: do you ever have weeds in your field?
We are known for our weeds,
Yeah. Right.
and that's not
So-
good. That's not
so
a good thing to be
it's
known
not.
for.
It is not a desirable effect for the farmer that is trying to get yield off the crop. I'm a close student of permaculture, and permaculture is it's a design principle. It's about permanent agriculture that exceeds. When I come to the farm, I look at the things that I can affect today, or in this growing cycle, or in my lifetime. But permaculture being a design principle, things like this is much broader than I can think of in my lifetime, right? But if I look at, okay, well, if I evaluate the weeds that are growing on my property, why is it there? Okay, well, maybe it's there because the wind blew it in, but does it do something? Like, the soil is giving that weed something that A, it needs, and B, that weed can then return to the soil, right? So sometimes we need to listen to what are the weeds that are going on our land, and say, okay, what is it that weed is giving to this? What is it that the soil is telling me that it needs by allowing that weed to be there? Because if I go walk out 40 acres, out in the bush, look for a weed.
Yeah.
There's no weeds.
Yeah, you don't
weeds in nature.
find them.
They don't exist, right?
Some
There's
grass.
things
and
that there's just things that just exist within the ecosystem, right? But then you'll come to the edge of a field and you'll find a patch of thistle or mayweed. I mean, we got a mayweed issue here, right? You know that as well as anybody. But what is that telling me about it? It's not just telling me that mayweed's an invasive species. Sure, it is. But there's also something else that is lacking in my soil. That plant is contributing to the soil that my soil needs, is allowing that plant to exist. Right? Dandelions is a really good example of that, right? My soil needs calcium, or otherwise the dandelion wouldn't be there. My soil is too compact, otherwise the dandelion wouldn't be there. Right? That's the whole purpose of the dandelion, is to provide early nutrition for the bees, to reduce soil compaction, and to provide calcium for the soil.
I did not know that, and that's interesting because we are not really a zero-till farm. We do quite a bit of tillage. Zero-till farms have a dandelion problem,
Yeah,
and that's obviously because of compaction.
because of soil compaction.
I did not know
Right.
that.
So that to many farmers is an undesirable. You don't want soil compaction, right?
And yeah, they'll grow like it's big around as a stable in the
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
Like they just,
So then what's the solution to that? Broadleaf herbicide, right?
Yeah, well, and that's why we grab the cultivator as opposed to grab the sprayer. But I
Yeah.
don't know which one's better, right?
Well, I mean, if you grab the sprayer and you kill the dandelion, then you kill the bees, and then what happens to your crop? Well, then you don't get pollination, and then,
But people
Your
say you're
yields.
not supposed to work the ground either, so
right? So you gotta find some balance there,
absolutely.
right? Zero till, maybe that's a bit extreme. Minimal till, perhaps a little bit better, right?
Absolutely.
But that's also where, you know, there's a large, and we're completely off on a tangent. I apologize to the folks who think we're gonna talk about the time. We're going on, we're going way off.
We don't even need to do another live stream.
We don't
Just
even, do-
covered
we're
it.
just, we're just getting into it right now, but, you know, there's a lot of pressure from the marketing experts that talk about, plant-based diets. Well, is a plant-based diet sustainable? Well, if I need land that can grow the volume of plant plus protein, because the human body needs protein, we can't live on carrots and turnips and
Yeah,
romaine lettuce out of California that's, you know, gonna have 3 or 4 times a year have an E. coli scare. We can't just eat that all day long, right? We need protein in our diet. What's the most efficient, most effective way to do that is by farming and harvesting ruminants, right? A lot of the land that we have, especially here north of the 49th parallel, is not always suitable for growing those nutrient-dense crops,
no.
right? So,
And further to that, one thing that I was talking to someone who wasn't into eating meat, anyways, and it shocked me when you grow crops up here, things like malt barley, human consumption peas, any food grade crop, is definitely lower yielding.
for sure it is, yeah,
And I wondered why is so if you grow a feed barley,
yeah,
you can pull down 120 bushels.
yeah.
If you grow a malt barley, something for beer, something for bread, 50, 60, if you're
Yeah.
being reasonable,
Yeah,
you know, you can
Yeah.
get to 80 to 90 or whatever. But if you're being reasonable, so like you say, now you need twice as much land to get, you know, to feed this plant-based diet. If you're gonna grow a forage pea, those things will run like 100, 110, 120. We're happy with 40
so
on our
what can you grow like a hot dam?
oats. We can grow a lot of oats, which
Grow a lot of
actually is
oats.
one thing that is a food grade.
Yeah.
We do grow a milling oat, but it always doesn't always make milling grade. Lots of
Yeah.
times it's just
Yeah.
horse feed. You know, it's a
Yeah.
good horse feed or good cattle feed.
Well, we're probably not gonna take horses to the feed market.
We shouldn't, but
Some people do, but
I don't know if there is. I never looked into that actually. If there's a specific oat that, you know, Quaker wants for the granola or whatever. But I expect if there is, it would be a lower yielding plant,
yeah.
and it just seems to be the case.
But I think, you know, we talked earlier about time management, and now we're getting into soil health and growing ruminants and what crops really grow well. And I gotta say, like, prairie grassland is prairie grassland. For centuries before, you know, Western occupation of North America came into play, there's tales of, you know, guys that came here in the 1700s, and the grass is as tall as the saddle on the horse, right? There's no more effective carbon sink aside from the oceans than grass. Like if I were to say to you, what's more effective through rotational grazing of ruminants, we can not only grow really high quality nutrient dense protein, but we can also capture a lot of carbon through grassland management, right? So if we think about like what we talked about earlier with time management, the folks that aren't rotating their cattle on their crops or their sheep or their goats or whatever kind of ruminants they're keeping, if you're not rotating your animals and I know it takes time, but you're literally leaving grass to die in the field, or you're overgrazing your pasture to the point where it's not recovering. Whether you shouldn't rotate. For us, when we're not rotating daily, like we probably could if I physically had the time. But I'll move the cows that come here in the summer to each 25-acre plot once a week, right? And so last year we have cows here, 35 cow-calf pairs that showed up in, you know, beginning of May, and didn't leave here till November, in the largest drought year that I've ever experienced. They drank the dugouts dry, and we still had grass.
Yeah.
In November, right? If we would've just left them have free roam of the whole farm, just go and clean it up, that grass would have been parched, trampled, dead, brown, as looking like that by Canada Day. Right? So. Anyways, that's a long tangent off
That
of
was.
management.
But I learned quite a bit on that, actually.
So I don't know if
That
we
I
need to
didn't
do,
know.
I don't even know if we need to do another live. I kinda enjoyed that because we went completely off script on that one.
I did too. Well, you can
That
let
was-
us know if that's something worthwhile to fill another couple hours with.
Would
Well-
you guys like to learn more about, rotational grazing, ruminant management, manure management
Yeah,
on the farm? Right?
yeah.
That'd be kinda cool to evaluate what you do on your farm versus what we do on our farm. We're small scale, you're obviously a lot larger than we are. If I had, how many, 25 quarters, 26 quarters?
Yeah, I would say it's like 23 or something.
You know, if I had that much, I'd probably look at things an awful lot differently, but,
Yeah, well, I guess you would for sure.
you know,
So
check, see if we have any more comments here.
I'll check that too, and then I guess we could wrap it up.
I got nothing less.
Soil health will be the biggest issue facing mankind. Something has to eat the crop unfit for human consumption. Absolutely. So I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. We've got mine's been on the whole time. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes. So that might be a record. 2:21.
No, 225 was the last one.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough anyways. So as always, to those who did tune in, to those who comment, we do appreciate it. If you have some folks that aren't subscribed to our channels, that don't know about these live streams, let them know, share these videos. We do appreciate that. We appreciate the comments. That's why we got these cups to give away.
Hopefully your cigars are sweet and your whiskey's not too sour.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll see you guys all on the next one.
All right, good night.